I just had to jam out for a little bit there. This groove is too good. Yeah, let's get this show on the road, right? So, disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for, quote-unquote, fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. I think I've explained it enough.
People constantly endeavor to have but highly controversial instruments for political action.
Because everybody likes the political action, don't you know?
Sorry, boss, give it a minute. Field's coming to a vote. The pressure boys have been after me all day.
Now, Senator, about that, on that.
Say, you're new on this job, aren't you?
Yes, Senator, this is Joe Tuma. He's the new man covering the State House for the Sun.
Glad to meet you, Joe.
Senator, these pressure groups give you a rough time, don't they?
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yes,
Your pants are mighty hot.
Oh, but they do get our hair a good deal, don't they?
And do you really know what a pressure group is?
Yeah, Stan.
Well,
do you
I've seen
know?
them in action
You
around
know
the
what a
State
fuck
House long
a
enough.
pressure group is,
But you
man?
still don't know.
No.
Let me
You
tell you something.
do?
Any spokesman for a group who comes in here to see me is talking for people.
People.
Important groups of people.
Important
Believe
people.
me, I listen to them.
But, Senator,
I
what
hope
about
so.
your party? Isn't that organized to give expression to people's political opinions?
Yes, political parties are organized for that purpose, but pressure groups do a somewhat different job.
Do that?
After all, political parties are
I
largely
guess
concerned with getting people elected to office.
Oh, yeah,
And pressure
well, I
groups
guess
aren't.
they just push
Well,
pressure.
in
They
a
put
little
pressure.
different way, as you'll find out after you've been here a while.
Oh, different ways.
Certainly, pressure groups are interested in who gets elected, and they often work for the election of candidates.
Oh.
But you won't see a pressure group nominating and supporting a candidate for office in the same way the political parties do. No, sir.
No,
They
sir.
leave that to the parties.
Yeah,
Do
they're
they?
too busy pulling wires behind scenes.
Sometimes they are.
Oh.
But that's not the
Jab.
point. All pressure groups, regardless of their aims and methods, are made up of groups of people who have certain common interests and who want to get the public and the government to adopt certain policies.
Oh,
By the way,
do
one of
they?
the
Is it
important
always
pressure
just the government? Is it always just certain policies? Or is it ideas that carry with them weight that folks involved or those who may be pressured don't even know they're getting? Weight on their back. Weight on their social conscience. Weight on their necessary behaviors when it comes to the way they have to portray themselves. From fitting into a box for the group to politically falling in line. Which of these pressure groups is bad? Which of them is good? And when does it turn to extremism? When does it turn into McCarthyism? Which this film is made right in the middle of. A witch hunt across this country. There, anybody, any one of us involved with, well, let's say even a fairly left-leaning Democratic platform, or voting, or going and visiting an educational dissertation on, Lenin, or just wanting to learn something about other cultures, getting you stamped with the name commie, which could get rid of your work, which could get rid of your life and your friends. Now, really, hey, good evening, Lizard Tree. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. What is the pressure group? Well, as this 1950s film, up on Periscope Film, by the way, here on the Use of the Tube, explains, pressure groups are a grassroots group. And I'll let the film go on, because it very well explains it, folks. It very well explains it.
About the same as they are everywhere else in the country, I suppose. Yeah. Take a look at some of the letters I get, for example.
Yeah, look at these letters. No.
There are all kinds of groups interested in political issues
Chamber
these
of
days.
money, commerce.
In fact, there are few
American
people today
public, people
who are
with
not
health.
involved in one way or another in the activities of pressure groups.
Guys who used to have guns.
Among the most active and effective are the
Money
economic pressure
chambers,
groups.
Congress
All
of
these
Industrial,
organizations
people who
of
build
businessmen,
things.
farmers, laboring
Lots of
men,
dentists.
professional men, and even consumers.
A Congress of
They
Industrial
carry
people
on
who build
pressure
stuff. Yes,
activity
all
to
that.
further the economic interests of large groups of people.
We're thinking about your
And
money.
there are other pressure groups who speak for special interests. Groups acting to
Niche
protect
interests.
racial and national
Furries
interests and minorities.
The like.
Organizations promoting patriotism. And groups working for a wide range of civic reforms and improvements.
Yeah.
All these groups put
Bunch of
pressure
white
on him.
guys.
Yes. I can always count on hearing from them whenever anything comes up that affects their interests.
Yeah, I hate those people, but they still do
If
vote.
they had
Let's
their
go drink.
way, you fellows would be running the government exclusively for them, not for the general public. That's what's wrong with public affairs today.
Yeah, that's what's wrong with public affairs today, see? And also, not enough high-waisted pants. True, Mr. Pill in the Room. Shellac your hair a little harder. This guy represents the general mass. If you're going to give all that money and attention to the special interest groups... Oh, now, notice, that's not the name. That's what we call them now, special interest groups. That's the subset he refers to there. I find it fascinating, mostly for the fact that that's not what they were really thinking of them as. They were calling them actually what they are. Pressure groups. And when I say we should take a look at this in perspective, I'm asking whether or not extremism is bad. And when I say that, I say it a little cynically because that could apply to a lot of things. I'm very extreme about my art. I like to approach things from angles that most people don't. So that's my extreme, but I think that's pretty good. That could be bad for others. Or, there could be extreme points of view that hurt people, that create folks to propel themselves to actions they wouldn't otherwise, but simply for the need to fit in, the need to be part of the group. The need to wear high-waisted pants, man. All of these things have a good and a bad, an outcome that could be considered negative. So I want to hear from you. And, I'm going to do what I did last night, which is just hang on out and see who shows up. And, I'm willing to talk to anybody about this. But yeah, extremism bad? And what causes it? Well, I'm going to say the pressure group. And although I'm extrapolating outward very far back, I want to just show that these things have always existed. Much more hand to hand and face to face than they are now. But these are the problems we face now, online at least. And we're about to head into a voting season. And I think we need to be aware that these things come into play this time, just like they did last time. And trust that anybody who doesn't like us as a country, as a people, as a diverse population of individuals, and I mean this, they want us to fall for any gag. They want us to be separated, and they've been working on this for damn near 12 years, if not longer. And when I say this, I mean the disenfranchisement via pressure and tribalization of the United States public to soften us for future endeavors. Now, I don't want to scare you, because there's nothing to be scared about. I think we're resilient enough to fight back against any of this. But that's why I bring this to light, because I see it. It's why I challenge those who claim authority. But more importantly, I challenge everyone. Look up.
Hall, every state capital, even down in Washington, all playing politics, scheming, conniving, putting on the heat. And for what? To get you fellas in government to run things their way.
Yeah,
That's
they're
right,
going
you're
to
wrong,
run things
sir.
their way.
Actually, pressure groups serve a useful purpose in giving people a greater voice in their government.
And
I'd like to
money
see you
for me.
demonstrate
I
that,
mean,
Senator.
Well, I think I can. You remember that slum cleanup bill we passed in the last session of the legislature?
Sure, that was a constructive piece of legislation.
I don't remember any of that. What did you say about slums, sir?
Putting that over. And I'll tell you how it happened.
Oh, do tell me. Do tell.
It seems that being fair with you, Thomas, hasn't done much good, has it? On 4 different occasions, and with only minor punishment, I've attempted to consider your disrespect for the law as something you might possibly outgrow. But now it appears the only thing that is growing is your disrespect for that law.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Judge, I don't think Tommy understands
Same with
you.
that
He does respect
mullet
the
you're
law.
about to grow
I'm
out.
sorry, Mrs. Williams.
By the way, Jimmy,
After
nice
careful
haircut.
consideration, I find it necessary to send you aboard at the State Reform School for a term of not less than 1 year.
That little greaser's going to go on down, son.
You won't change your mind, Judge.
No,
Please,
I'm
Judge.
sorry.
He's
Your
a white
is
boy.
certainly old enough to be responsible for his actions.
He's responsible, huh? Well, look at the neighborhood we have to live in. No place for the boys to play. Nothing around them but filth and corruption.
Whose fault is that for living there? I'm sorry. I'm screaming. Because there's so much bias in this anyways. And I am absolutely making fun of the pastiness of this film. I cannot help but just see all of this as just a privileged environment where, you know, please help, Billy. Can you imagine that? I just can't imagine. I don't even want to go into it, but anyways. Fast forward, the reason that this was so important to the
People
background
of
of
this
this
city
story.
could get the legislature to act if they put on enough pressure. And I'm going to do something about it. A lot of people feel the same way.
What are you going to...
Yeah, Judge, no nookie for you. Not even after she's had 8 or 10 drinks and a couple of those special little pills the doctor gave you. Yeah, that's the judge. That's his wife. That's the wife saying, I'm going to get down to help the slums get cleaned up. What does that mean? We don't. I mean, it's just so absurd. But in the framing of this, because this is just not the people who would be going through this. Anyways, they end up at the senator's office talking about what it went down, and it's a bunch of rich ladies who were. Oh yeah, this is a great scene, by the way. Hold on.
There's the bill, ready
There
to go.
it is.
We're going to introduce it tomorrow. Does it cover everything?
Senator, if it'll give us the power to clean up the slums in our town, then it covers everything.
Oh yes, we made sure to get rid of all the minorities, no problem. Yeah, that's, you can guarantee that's what that bill was. It was just like redlining. Anyway, pressure groups. The people on top, pushing downward. Remind you of anything? If you watch my show at all, you know what I'm talking about. Well, folks, pressure groups are not unlike cults, but they tend to stop short of actually truly indoctrinating. They just bring you in and use the cultural environment to enact what is a form of emotional extortion. They get you to believe that you need to do the things that they want you to do normally out of fear, or manufactured scarcity, or replacement theory even. All these things have been used, plus more. So what's the answer? Do you strike back? Do you match the energy and set up other pressure groups so that now there's more pressure groups on pressure groups? Do we become what we fight just to put out the fire with more fire? Well, we know how that works out. Hello, everybody. I'm aronmsound, and this is the show known as Look Up, where I interject myself into a conversation, and by way of which, well, I take it somewhere it wasn't expected to go. Tonight, I'm talking about extremists online who come out subtly, but create an environment that tilts everything on its head so that you can't even tell what is sensible anymore. Conversations that deflect away from any point that they're trying to make even. Now, as usual, the panel is open to debate. I've invited no one, so I don't expect anyone to show up. I might just sit here and talk, but I'm happy to take calls. And if at any time we do get into a debate mode, I have rules and I'll share them at that time. Otherwise, what I'm sharing here, as I mentioned earlier, is old lingo. It's not that far ago, not that far back. Not that far back ago, in time, in the mid-last century. Many people around were alive then, and we're adults even, and they're not ancient. So, we should consider that this could happen again, if we forget. And what is this? Well, what we're actually looking at is a time gone by where there wasn't a true sense of organization, even though there had been before, but rather a new evolution of it because women were involved. And I say women, not all women, white women. And it took another 30 plus years, till 1981, to push forward the agenda to create equal rights for all women, which enacted alongside it the clarity for equal rights for all people. Now, if you don't know that, you would just take it for granted that these things are separate. Civil rights, it was already settled. This isn't it. No. Civil rights didn't get settled to any degree, and still kind of isn't, because of the language of our Constitution, until ERA happened. And because of the inclusions of ERA, we all have the right, as individuals, from the get-go, without association to our skin color, our background, our beliefs. There can't be redlining. And what got us there is an extreme push through the 70s and out of the end of the 60s. People enacting with absolute faith and belief, putting their bodies on the line. What got us there is the glorious. What got us there was the belief that all people could be equal. And now we're having conversations as if that wasn't settled. And instead of moving it forward to include, which should just be an easy call, right? It seems like a whole generation, if not two, who loves to ignore one other generation. It's a weird thing. It's like, oh, there's only boomers and then zoomers. No, there's like a whole slew of other people in there. I know that monolithic binary thought is really impressive to people who only know that, but it's not. And yeah, if you feel insulted or called out, hey, so fucking be it. That's how it works out. Different perspectives give you different points of view, and you may not like all of them, and some of them may be kind of like, hitting you in sensitive spots that used to be protected by safe spaces, but safe spaces have never existed because we can all get hit by an asteroid at any time. Life's too short to put up with that bullshit. Most of us who are living through the youth of this, and I mean the actual youth, watching folks be handed iPads and such, knew that there was going to be problems with the cognitive reasoning of these people because they were getting sold material. They were getting sold a bill of goods. They were getting sold an idea, an ideation, over and over and over again without the parents watching. And their parents were our friends. Sometimes we're the parents. So we can take blame too. But how do we respond? Do we get into an extreme mode where we actually have to fight back in some way, whether it be politically, monetarily, you name it? What do we got to do? We got to face these people down? What's the answer? I believe talking helps. I believe inspiring or showing people a different direction, that helps. But, I've even been told that I'm extreme. And I must scare some of the real cowardly, inexperienced folks out there because of the way that they'll sling around the most horrific, insane accusations with nothing. They'll just sling them out there as if that's rational to do in a situation. No. Because if you punch against people that are really punchers, you might find out that there is no veil on the internet, no matter how much you pretend that there is. And that's one of the things about accountability that seems to be problematic in the pressure group, in the in-group need. So in the end, to get the goal done of making sure that we don't have to survive through the upheaval of literal idiocracy, my question tonight, are extremists actually bad if in some cases extremism is what makes things change? Now we can take any side of this, but it may even sound like a bad take. But what am I talking about? I could point to society's great thinkers as extremists. On the edge, on the cutting edge. They all have to take chances. All of the great, adventurers, they're extremists. They took their bodies and their lives all the way to the edge. In some cases, the great politicians take all of us to the edge, whether it's on purpose or not. Now, you can take one side or the other. I take the side of necessity for the moment. The long-term view of recognizing what my morality and personal character is and choices, and don't see them as either separate or exclusive, because life requires quick thinking sometimes, and sometimes it requires long-term embedded posturing, meaning standing where you are, knowing who you are, adding things in, changing the things that don't work. Now, anyone who would say that you've got to be a monolith, I would argue is probably an idiot and is projecting out their fear of what they don't want to change about themselves. And if they had to actually change, well, they might be in real trouble because they don't know how to change it. They don't want to accept that they have to change it. They don't reach out to change it. And they might even be surrounded by a bunch of people that are just like them. So it's sycophantically just group validated that your bad behavior is completely cool if that's the case. And that's what happened in McCarthyism. In the sense that people jumped on a bandwagon, not unlike the witch hunts. Now, why am I mentioning that? Because there's so much at play in the pressure group. And a lot of it has to do with wanting. A lot of it has to do with feeling like we're desperate. Feeling like we're pained. And not expressing it, or feeling like no one's going to be there to support us. So we find a group that without having to do that, they just accept us. But that's dangerous. That's more dangerous than somebody who's just way too friendly. Why? Because at some point, that group is going to want something from you. Fealty, the absolute, loyalty of following the direction. And if you're talking about here on YouTube, which is what I'm talking about specifically, that becomes cultist because you're watching TV. Can you imagine doing that on Channel 4, NBC, or whatever channel, Channel 7 I know on some places? If you're looking at it differently, I'm concerned about you. Why? Yeah, things have changed technologically, but still a camera, still a screen. Don't get delusional. All right? Characters out here are behind a camera. No matter how much they play to you that they are real, you should think of them as not real. You should always take any one of us, including me, with a grain of salt. I've told my audience that enough. Now, that brings me to the whole concept of speaking about the audience as audience and not followers. And that's the key word. That says everything about the idea of the ego inside the negative extremist's mind. Those who would corral and bring people together so that they can be the leader without authority, without call to authority, without any sense of even what they got to lead. Especially when no one asks them to. And public interest in a character and the way that a person behaves or talks can be easily misconstrued via the ego as godlike adulation. I've seen it right in front of me. And I've actually seen it in real time with over 100,000 people or more feeding into a single person. I can see and have seen. And if you watch any film of anything like that in a performance, you can see there is a surge that pushes towards the person centered stage. And the person in center stage, I guarantee you, they feel that because you feel it on stage. It's a rush. It's like a drug. It is energy. And I know it sounds like hoo-ha, but you can just ask anybody who's ever done a real massive performance. You can feel the audience, the heat, the blasts of air, and then there's extra. So when everybody's focus is on one person, the intention becomes very clear for them. Now, that also happens here. And if anything, it's even more focused because we're talking about electronic stimulation. We're talking about waves running down a wire. We're talking about transmission. Even though it's digital, it's still the transmission of waveforms that re-emanate a visual and an audio recreation of the oriented or the original source. That being said, even when you're in chat, you're feeding into somebody. And so, what I've noticed is that there is a very strange misinterpretation by these folks who are not artists, who are not folks standing on stage, but rather on a stage behind a camera. And it goes to their head, and you give them some money. And then they think that they rule an actual clan of people. You give them a little bit, and this tells everything. If you give people a little bit, and they behave really poorly, what's going to happen when you give them a lot? These are the telltale signs of people that will run off the hinge with anything you give them. So I'd say beware, even if it's entertaining. When you buy into it full sale, you become part of that group, and they're going to want to extract something from you. Now, I've seen everything from doxing to getting angry because some people were in somebody else's chat, for God's sakes, which, by the way, how juvenile is that? I mentioned last night, there's the windmill or ghost chasing. There's, and I don't mean like actual ghost chasing, because I've done that. I've got some great footage somewhere in there. I'm in actually a Burke, I wonder if it's up there, Burke Williams thing, a long story. But anyways, yeah. There's we caught a ghost on there. Resto! Oh no, you're in someone else's chat. Oh. Wait, hold on a second. Resto, you gotta see what I'm playing here. Hold on a second.
I think it does the job.
I think it does.
Representative Pritchard will handle it in the House. I look after it in the Senate.
Hold on.
Clean up.
Wait, you missed it.
There's the bill, ready to go. We're going to introduce it tomorrow. Does it cover everything?
Senator, if it'll give us the power to clean up the slums in our town, then it covers everything.
Oh, yes,
the
we
job.
made sure there's
Represent-
absolutely no Jews, women can't own property, minorities are nowhere in there. Yes, just a large red line in that area, dear. Don't worry. The slums will go away quickly. Yeah, talking about pressure groups, and actually asking the question, because there's validity to the idea of extremism in certain sections of society, to get large civil motions through. It took a lot of extremism to get civil liberties into place. And I found this film about pressure groups. And now we call them special interest groups. What's happening, Daryl? What's going on? How you feeling? Welcome on in. Good to see you, by the way. And by the way, this is definitely how redlining happened. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. But the pressure of being part of a cult, pressure of being part of a group, pressure of being part of just a society. These things can come down to and boil down to witch hunts very quickly when there's the need to capitulate to, what's going on? When it's a need to capitulate to that group or tribe. And I am seeing a lot of parallels and just calling out the questions of like, how much of this is valid? How much do we need? Which of this extremism, which has served us as a society, as a nation in particular? Because I'm also calling to the question of whether or not it's time to start fighting back against this like slow roll of witch huntery fascist mindset of binary consciousnesses. A limited set of understanding what happened in the prior 50 years, that this is only 1953 or something. ERA hadn't even happened. The ERA is what I was just talking about, is what really cemented, in a very cynical way, what civil liberty laws and the Amendment for Civil Liberties had put into play. That cemented it for all people, which allowed for a number of other things, including the Civil Disabilities Act afterwards. So you remove that specifically, 19th Amendment, and a lot of other things topple. So one of the things I'm going to share today, I'm going to review, by the way, Brittany Venti's review. I'm going to meta something so I can high five her, because she just stabs so well. Pearly Swings. I'm actually going back to Pearly Swings for a minute because she's just hilarious. It's ridiculous. But a great example of someone who would create a group ineffectively in an extreme fashion. And I also have some other folks I'm going to share, as well as somebody who I think is completely humorous, but has an incredible way of lending that same pressure and extreme humor to getting you to see the fuck is wrong. I got a couple different angles of that. So the real question is, where is the extreme necessary? Is it good? Is it bad? What does it do for us, and does it do anything? Here's my premise generally, although I'm not debating. Fun fact, for a long time, black and white movies had all black and white sets and clothes to save money, but the cast found it too depressing, so they changed it. I don't doubt that at all. That makes complete sense because it's easier to film that way. I just love the fact that, like, these are like the rich ladies in town who have come in, and that's the judge who oversaw some white kid who was getting thrown in juvie. It's a whole thing. There's so much backstory in this like educational film, by the way. It's amazing. I'm also going to share a little bit. I have a bunch of things. But anybody's welcome to call in. The call-in is up there if you have any thoughts on the subject. Because I think that there's a lot of segregation coming back into play here online. And I'm really just specifically talking about this subculture of those people who are watching the streaming, coming from the games, that most of the world doesn't really, in the IRL, doesn't know even exists, just hiding under the surface. And a lot of this is what caused January 6th. And what is this? This is subculture groups that are hanging on to a lot of fringe ideas, connecting them unnecessarily, and hiding off into corners and really being tribal about it. Now, in some cases, I believe that tribalism and that extremism is important because it gets some of the brightest minds together in a corner and say, you know, we need to change the world and disrupt shit. And in other cases, it can get some real idiots in the corner and make them go, witches, vampires, ah! Yeah, anyway. So, if you have any thoughts on the subject, I'm going to start rolling some video. I'm going to roll a little bit more of this. I've also got an incredible story of one of the aspects of this pressure and the need to fit in that comes from Japan, actually. But one of these happenstance finds where I'm like, oh my God. But then the big portion of the fitting in is that this Japanese streamer was committing fraud and teaching women across the planet how to commit the same fraud by not catfishing, but taking advantage of, you know, lonely people. And that really plays into the whole idea of where and why these groups exist. People with too much time on their hands, people who mean well, but end up in places that maybe, you know, they didn't intend to. I'm sure most people didn't intend to end up here. Hey, anyhow, I love to play a little bit more of the Pressure Group's film because it's hilarious. And they're all wearing very high hats.
Pritchard will handle it in the House. I look after it in the Senate.
Me
We'll
knock
get it
Shaw
through the
on
House
down
easily
also.
enough.
That Senate committee is the real
No,
hurdle.
sure.
If we can sell it to the committee, the Senate will pass it.
And the committee is loaded with men who are against the whole cleanup idea.
Let's see who's on the committee now. Well,
Well,
Barnum,
let me
Smith,
read my line from the ceiling.
Jenkins. Jerry, there's one vote you can count on.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, I remember when Jenkins grabbed your ass last week.
Dodd. They say around the State House that every time Senator Jenkins has dinner with you, he changes his vote the next day.
Yes, just like when he grabbed your ass last week.
Senator Jenkins is an intelligent man.
Yeah, just like when he grabbed my ass last week.
I see a good chance to line up a majority of that committee.
I wouldn't bet on it. I'll do the best I can, of course, but the real work's up to you folks.
But why wouldn't you bet on it, Senator? After all, we're
I swear to God, she's going to break into Piccadilly, 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 Piccadilly.
fighting on the right side. Who could fail to see the wisdom of it?
Nobody could, Mrs. Snow. Nobody at all. But they'll see it quicker if they think a lot of voters are behind it. You've
Yes,
got to
true.
put pressure on
Oh,
them.
wait, where is
Real,
Derek? Oh my
honest
God, I
to
didn't even
goodness
realize.
pressure
Hold on, he's
from
still in the
people.
chat. Hold on. I got it. I didn't even think about it. I just assumed.
And so the pressure is on.
Hold up.
The
Standard
strategy of
mod.
a
Hold on a
pressure
second.
group
This
that
this
works
calls
up-
for a pause. Oh, and where's the... I don't even have the fanfare ready. Oh, good. It's yeah, but this one wasn't charging very well. Hold on a second. Ladies and gentlemen, homeless and tramps, crossing mosquitoes, and bullock ants, I stand before you to sit beside you to bring in an awesome moment. Incredible member of the Mod Squad. If you haven't already gone to his page, please do. Hey! Welcome on into the Mod Squad, Daryl, a.k.a. Everything Everyday Podcast by Daryl Long. Ayo, sorry. Now, this woman, if she hasn't been drinking for the past 6 days with no sleep, or those black eyes, my husband loves me. He does it because he cares.
Democratically, is to mobilize widespread
No, she just
public
looks
support
old.
for
She's
its
like,
program.
but I'm
By persuading
25.
citizens to express their opinions and stimulating discussion and debate, the group attempts to create...
And when you wrap the lettuce with the Jell-O, you get Jell-O lettuce.
sentiment which will influence the views of the men whose vote will decide legislation.
Good afternoon, Mrs.
Meatloaf
Thompson.
is definitely
I
cold.
represent the Association for Community Welfare. We're working
Good afternoon, ma'am. I've been sleeping with your husband for at least the last 3 weeks, but I'd like you to sign this petition. Have you seen the milkman?
on that some clearance bill, you know. I wonder if you'd let me explain the bill to you. Won't you come inside?
She's
Thank
getting
you.
doxxed! I can see the address!
We expect every one of you ladies to write your representatives in the legislature.
We expect every one of you, and only you ladies. right. There's kind of a Heinrich Himmler thing going on here. Don't move too much. She bites, dear. No, she turns into a demon. I swear.
Demanding that they vote on this bill. We urge you to canvass the mothers in the neighborhood. Get them to write too. Now, as you leave, you will
That
find
woman's
the
wife.
pamphlet on the
What are
table
they?
of the door.
She's a sailor. That woman.
Ladies, the Evening Times is giving you all the help we can. Look here.
Delaware, we're going to give you all the help we can. Would you like a drink, ladies?
Front-page story on the mass meeting you held last night.
Yes,
you,
Mr.
Esther.
Thompson, but that's not enough.
I appreciate it. You
We
are
don't
too,
feel
by the way.
public is getting all the facts.
But we are printing everything that's news.
And Mr. Thompson, here's one.
We're printing everything that news that the white people have written. Come on.
Pamphlets we've put out. Do your readers know that juvenile delinquency in this city has gone up 25% in the last 10 years?
AKA those people.
No, I'm sure I didn't know that myself. Let's see what else is here.
Anyways, the point of this film, other than being absolutely hilarious, that you should totally go check it out, it's called Pressure Groups, 1952, Special Interest Lobbying and Political Pressure Groups film made by I think it's the University of Denver? Could be wrong about that. It's not saying. It's at the beginning of the film. Periscope Films, always an amazing channel. But, I mean, just some of the films I find that really are hilarious. The point of showing this is, though, not only the language and the biasing and all this just asserted behavior that is easy to see through now. There's an exclusion of an entire portion of the United States populace in this film. Not represented. But they would have you believe that this is the way that things are, that this is life, that this is what needs to happen, that these are the people that are important. And it's that kind of stuff that is important to pay attention to, because that's where the biasing comes in. And what's excluded often. And what isn't mentioned. And those pressures can go unspoken until somebody makes a faux pas, and then, you know, there's a Japanese saying, and it's probably better in Japanese, so I should look it up, but it's that the nail that sticks up gets hammered down, meaning if you don't fit in, we're gonna smash you. Hey, what's happening? I'm not sure who I stand with Speakeasy Lurking. Oh, Lurking! What's going on? How you doing? I was like, who is this? And you have a red. What's up? Good to see you. Missing you all too. I was just talking about pressure groups. And the idea of tonight is asking the question whether or not extremism at all serves us, and where it serves us, and when it serves us well and when it doesn't. And I'd have to even argue that there's always going to be a group. Oh, you're good. Oh, I was literally talking about. There's even some groups that say if they find you in someone else's chat, you might be in trouble. Oh God. Oh. 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 Anyhow, it's TV. That's part of it. That's something to be aware of. That's why I'm talking about it. I was thinking even of tuning into somebody I haven't looked at in a long time because I refuse to watch him generally. Now, I did my research and watched him enough, and then it was enough. But I want to look back and see what he's doing right now because I understand there's a gun on his wall. It's another streamer, very big streamer, not the biggest streamer by any means. Not the biggest streamer that I'm even going to cover today. By the way, panel's open. Anybody wants to call in, you're more than welcome to talk about the subject, or challenge me, or challenge others. If a panel does show up, I will actually run some rules. Maybe next week I'll actually set them up. I don't know, though. I kind of like the freeform. Never know what's going to happen. And some people, if you build it, they will come. Anyways. So earlier I was saying that a lot of the pressure in the groups ends up as kind of an outlet through Fuzzy B. What's happening? How you feeling this evening? Good to see you. Well, so this pressure will come out through people enacting what they think the group wants. And when it comes to like civil rights, you end up with standout, amazing performances from humans on behalf of others. Now, when it comes to the work against civil rights, you see dastardly and despicable and horrendous acts of violence. And I now made that comparative on purpose, not by accident, but rather to show you how the biasing of that, because I believe in civil rights. So what makes that right? What makes the battle of civil rights, the fight for civil rights, more reasonable than those other people who were completely bigoted and racist? Well, here's my argument for it. One benefits a larger group of people for the future and for the idea that we're all the same. Because we are. It's not just an idea. It's a fact. And the other is that any form of reductive sense of humanity, any form of reductive conceptualization of other people is a sign that somebody wants unauthorized control, wants the say, wants superiority. Yeah, Fuzzy Bee's awesome. I love Fuzzy Bee. Yeah. Point being, it's easy to see when you stay in perspective, but when you're inside of it and somebody you trust, how easy is it to see? Where can you trust that bias? Look, I've got a lot of tricks for myself, but it doesn't work for everybody. I see things a little differently, you know. But when I do say that this bias is important to pay attention to, I say it because I'm starting to see the beginnings of the disenfranchisement groups becoming their own segregated environments. And I'd say some of them are probably extremist to the positive, and some of them are extremely extremist to the negative, to the point that, yeah, and it does show, right, Fuzzy Bee? You can see the groups separating off. And it's very segregated. Much less the fact that, you know, there have been many attempts to try to bring a lot of different groups together to avoid this. It still continues to happen. Why? I actually will put out there and say, because I've seen it enough now in both the proper news and in the military reporting, there is definitely a counterintelligence program, a propaganda going on, being fed once again to the far right and the far left of extremist propaganda to get everybody to disenfranchise ahead of the vote. Why? Because the more extreme we go with our leadership, the less likely we are to pay attention to the problems of the world, like last time. And unfortunately, we are at the forefront of making sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart. Whether we like it or not, that's the position we're in. We don't want to be Rome. And what is streaming? What do streamers have to do with it? I mean, like, it's just people play video games. It's just video game people, and they're just, what is just people? Yeah. Individually, maybe. But en masse, when you start to look at the way that things get broken up, the way people's ideas get disenfranchised and disconnected from reality, not just reality, but set standard or precedent of law, or the fact that the quote-unquote Twitch poll, which is Twitch politics. So I would say that right there, that tells you everything. Oh, Twitch, the place where video games being played by kids and hot tub streamers are the two biggest things. Just chatting. Those are the big channels. XQC is the biggest streamer on Twitch. He's like got a neurological issue or something. If he's not putting that on as a affectation. We should be concerned, not just for the extreme value, but for the fact that it's clear these are people watching that don't see the line. Now, is that extreme dangerous? Yes. Because then they don't know when the call for them to act is genuine or not. Now, we've seen this in Rwanda in my own lifetime, I watched on TV as a genocide happened due to a radio host on a small station. And it was small until his message was paired with a political message. And that message went alongside a vote and a candidate and then a tribal set of beliefs. So the Hutus and the Tutsis fought. And one side dang near exterminated the other and pushed, I believe it's the Tutsis, out of the country. We shouldn't take our hosts lightly if they intend to talk about politics specifically, especially errantly, meaning without really thinking about it. Anyhow, let me take you down the train of some of the stuff we're going to look at. I'm going to start with the Brittany Venti video. And if anybody wants to talk about this, feel free to call in. I'm going to crack a caffeinated drink.
And if that didn't work out, then
little whales become big whales. I mean, little things make big things happen, good or bad. True. This is absolutely true. It doesn't take a lot to light a fire. In fact, I think I mentioned it the other night that it's a lot of little matches in a lot of places, you know, that end up getting a lot of people to start a fire. It's not the actual pitchforks or the flames, it's all the people with matches. Such a little thing burned down a whole city, burned down a whole country, really. And trust, there are people who don't like the things we have or the way we behave, and they have some good reason to. I mean, we haven't been the best populace to the rest of the world when it comes to our military or political intentions. We've been very selfish. That said, we're doing by ourselves well as we can, just like everybody else. So the argument can be had that we're doing our best. And the question becomes, again, is it extremism and is it bad? I would argue no. This is where we're born. This is where we're raised. I'm talking about the U.S. But anybody who is from a place and they grew up there and they believe in the way their country is run or their fellow countrymen, and they believe in the society that they come from, whatever that be, well, we all have a certain bit of pride. We don't want to ever believe that the place we live could be doing wrong to others. And America, the U.S., may be one of the very first to ever go, yeah, we should keep looking at ourselves because we're kind of effed up. We wouldn't have the form of democracy that we have without it. And that comes from, well, it comes from our founding fathers. And there's a lot of confusion as to the different parties back then. Like, there were Republicans, but they were actually like for a republic. There were Federalists who believed in a federal system as in more of a kind of a fancy way to monarchy. And there's a whole story about St. Adams possibly even attempting to lead us to that path. Or at least Jefferson was believing that that was the case. Now, Genevieve, what's happening? How you doing this evening? Good evening. Good to see you. Point that I'm trying to make here is that our forefathers had extreme points of view in the perspective of others who might have fought against them. They also had extreme points of view when it came to founding what is a complex system that they saw would include a wider public that would slowly change over time. In fact, they expected us to have way more native, way more travelers. And when people deny that, I find it's funny because maybe they haven't read the writings of all these people. They were very idealistic. They were pie in the sky optimists in some cases and would fight for it. Now that is extremism. That is good. In the eyes of the British, I'm sure it was terrible. So this is the question. On which side of the fence do you stand, and where does it really lie? Is the biasing because you're on one side or the other? These are questions that are always very important to ask ourselves when we're looking at our own bias. I do that a lot. I used to test myself quite often with, and I can't remember her name right now. She was a grammar school teacher, got in a bunch of trouble running some fairly questionable tests on kids. She ended up going to college, becoming a professor, and she was doing that in college too. It upset a bunch of people. Her videos were, oh God, I'm gonna have to look it up. Any case, she had a bunch of biasing tests I was taking for a while there on a regular. And checking your own biases for what you may believe up against what it is that you practice, also against what it is that you think that you practice and believe. Oh, we are, absolutely. We were just beginning. That's why I'm starting here with the awesome little freeze. You know. Sorry. Bringing us all the way back. I haven't covered her in months. I gave up covering her, and now she's kind of popped back up because, you know, she's like getting shoved down the hole. Sorry, I believe. Oh, yeah, I actually have a video about that. But yeah, I could do that. Absolutely. In fact, I'll probably end up, I can slowly turn that corner here too. There's a lot of the bias of these subculture groups. Of the I'm with Hassan, I'm with Destiny, and I'm right and you're wrong because you watch that show. Now, can you imagine? I watch General Hospital, you watch Days of Your Lives, and you think that I'm wrong and I'm a terrible person because I watch General Hospital and you watch Days of Your Lives. Well, let me just be frank with you. 1, petty. 2, lots of other things in the world that you should be thinking about. 3, it's a show. These are very important. Because I believe that there's a lot of folks who are relying on this medium. You know, which, by the way, I hate beating the dead horse, but it's called FAE, false association equivalency. You like chocolate milk. I think chocolate milk is made by Satan, so that makes you Satan loving. You have spoken to a person who thinks about the worst things in the world, so that makes you the worst person in the world. That's the logic that's been going on. And it is the logic of someone who's not really thinking things through. Because there's a lot of other conclusions and answers that happen past that point, but they're just using the laziest form of knee-jerk hyperbole. Just a rhetorical red herring in their own brain that they think is a win because it worked when they were 16 in the lobby of the Xbox Games Lounge or whatever the fuck those people do. Excuse me. I mean, I played video games, but I just don't. The whole social aspect of it is for the couch. Me and my homie next to me, or, you know, my girlfriend. Chocolate milk comes from brown cows and it's safe to drink because cows are vegan. That is true, Genevieve. Brown chicken, brown cow. True. Fact. I will stand on this hill with you. Chocolate milk comes from brown cows. There is no Santa. Easter Bunny is like a pagan god, but chocolate milk comes from brown. And yeah, moon is made of cheese. And birds aren't real. Those are my 3. I will stand on those memes. Birds aren't real is genius. What a sub-genius. That kid. Oh. Talk about full support from a bunch of fucking trolls. I'll tell that story one day. Anyways, pressure. Under pressure. What causes it? Most of the time, it's the group. Most of the time, it's the self. Most of the time. There's all kinds of elements. There can be environmental elements. There can be financial elements. There can be social elements. There can be, you know, pants, feet. Pants, feet. I will bring that back, by the way. I will bring that back. You gotta let it lie for a while. I missed it if you asked before. I am not clear on why chickens don't wear pants, but I have a feeling I'm going to find out. Genevieve, let us know. Go ahead. Throw it down. I'll wait. Pants feet. So. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't know either. Why do I bring up this person? Well, I think this video is because their peckers are on their head. Oh, whatever. Because, awesome. That was good. That was very good. I like that. Oh my. Not even Aaron After Dark. We already got pecker jokes. Peckerwood is my favorite white person slur, by the way. It's just funny. Why, like, where does that come from? Is Peckerwood white? I don't know. Anyway, yes, it is. The answer to that is just going to be yes. You're like, damn, he's being so bigoted tonight. Can I be? I'm not going to say anything more. I just asked.
Then they would come crawling to me.
Second place, Pearl, the most desperate woman on YouTube. She's basically been spiraling out of control since I made my first
God,
video.
she started with second place Pearl. Ooh, okay, let's go. First off, either side of this. I like Brittany Venti. I said Brittany. Like her last name and her first name in one. Anyway. But I do believe that she's from a group of people, not unlike Pearl, who would have you believe that they are sacrosanct. Oh yeah, let's replay that. Sorry. That is really good, right? Hold on a second. Put that back to the beginning.
Most of my friends, right, were generally like more attractive than me. Like if you look at my especially when we were younger, I was never the hot friend. The average guys you guys talk about so dearly, if they were interested in me, they would ask me about my friend first. And if that didn't work out, then they would come crawling to me.
Second place, Pearl, the most desperate woman on YouTube.
Beast! She's a bit. Oh my God. All right. One of the things about what I was about to say is she also, Brittany Venti, comes from a group of people, tea spillers, that would have you believe that they are in some way sacrosanct. They're only a little bit better. The focus of all the videos are about somebody else. The lowest form, and this is the lowest form right now. I can even, I'll raise my hand and say that I'm doing the same thing right now, actually. But I'm doing it to try to bring light to the point, to the actual concept around it. Not specifically the people, although I definitely will talk shit about some of these people. It is the lowest form of commentary, criticism, to actually attack a person. It's just what it is. You should be attacking their ideas, which is what I'm going to try to stick to, but sometimes it's just too hard. It's just too hard to avoid. You know. And Pearl does love Nick. She said it. She thought he was cute. She was down. When she was over there, overseas, she thought she had a chance. Is she still over there? No, she's back in Chicago. What happened to that big studio she was going to do? I thought she had a blonde lady that she was... No? And she doesn't have Auntie Jenny? Not anymore? No. Anybody? Anything you do, I can do better? Well, honey, hush. You got to give them something to want to look at first. That is the truth. And that can be in a lot of different ways, by the way. But that's a different story. I mean, attractiveness is so varied depending upon the person. You know, some people are looking for all different kinds of things. But anyways, I do believe that there's a certain sense of audacity or sense of, not entitlement, but having no sex makes Nick less gay. Oh, I still have that, by the way. Hold on a second. You know, real men. Where is that? I think that's this one, isn't it? Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely this one.
What, people calling me gay because I've never had a girlfriend?
Yes.
I think if anything, it makes me less gay.
No.
If anything, it makes me not gay.
No, it
As opposed to less gay. Not that there's any gay, but it makes me not gay. Well, because think about it this way. You know, a gay people do date girls all the time. Real.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
When I
Attraction's
said
not always
on
what you think.
Schaefer show, and they said, have you ever been in a romantic relationship? Have you ever had sex with a girl? And
No,
I
he
said
is not. No, he's a virgin.
If you name searched me on Twitter, as I always do,
as he always
all
does,
these gay people are coming out and saying, I've had more girlfriends than Nick. I've had sex with more girls than Nick.
Yeah, they have.
So like I said last week, not only is that
more
thinking
girlfriends
flawed,
than you, Nick, clearly.
But actually, it's the reverse. That actually makes me really more heterosexual than anyone.
Not at all. Not at all.
If we're being honest, never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman, really makes you more heterosexual. Because honestly,
no, that's gonna be a no. That's never been that way, and it's not going to become that way just because you've got the mustache, you know, from gay porn. That's my opinion. Anyways, so groups that would have you believe that they are important or an attraction is not always what you think they're looking at. Exactly. You never know what people are actually drawn to fully. I mean, like, you know, olfactory senses. What we smell is a big deal. People's voices, the way people stand, their stature. For women, one of the largest things that has been reported is the gait of a man's walk. Genevieve says that she can go for long periods of time without sexual attention from another person. She knows what her sex is. It's when others are not comfortable with themselves is why they never satisfied with life. True. This is very true. Not knowing what you want or need for yourself is a big deal. It is why most people clamor to a group, clamor to an extreme, or give up. Which there's lots of stories of people just giving up because, you know, they feel like
it's basically been spiraling out of control
extreme.
Since I made my first video on her, and her reputation has taken a hit because of it. She's still up to no good, spouting any nonsense that she possibly can so that bottom-of-the-barrel men will give her attention. Saying things like, was he really abusive, or did you bring the abuse out of him?
Oh, Pearl. So this is one of these very interesting things that I find reductive and backwards. You have a polarization. She's assuming that you take this seriously. Not that I don't think Pearl took it seriously. But I don't think anybody would ever even look at this and go, oh yeah, that's something that we should take seriously. And except for the small group that do. See what I'm saying? Most legitimately smart people. Ian, what's happening? Good to see you. It's been a minute. Most legitimately smart people would gather that Pearl isn't really to be listened to. But there's also a group of people that are fairly, well, not as versed in the world, and they're seeking out a message that matches what they want to hear. And in that case, Pearl is really hitting some marks for a certain group of men and a very tiny group of women who don't want women's rights, who don't think that we should be past the nuclear family or the 1950s behaviors. The gait of a man, Okay, this will sound weird maybe, but the way a man placed his hands on the steering wheel when he drives for me does something. That's, hey, I can imagine. I'm probably just weirdo that I realized. No, Fuzzy B, that is, you're not a weirdo. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I have a big thing about hands. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, when as I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, there's like 2 kinds of hands that I'm not down for. Weird, but something I've observed because as I get older. I have observed that they have the red flag. I've observed that they have the red flags of sex addicts, and sex addiction is not always actions of promiscuity or hyperactivity. True. Yeah, that is a complex. That can be a complex disorder because sometimes it can also from my understanding, can be just fantasy to the point where there's a delusional effect of pulling people out of actual reality, forgetting to actually be intimate. So that's a whole other side of that. It's very interesting. People don't talk about the counters to it, where there's some sex addiction that is mental, as opposed to actual physical or playing out. I think either way, it's got to be traumatic. It's got to be problematic, because if you are actually addicted in that you can't control your urges, it happens. There are just some neurological disorders where like you're getting a chemical dumped into your brain just all day long. No, lizard tree, you're a sapiosexual. Me too. I'm totally down for intelligence. That's always a good thing. Intelligence and boldness, the ability to speak one's mind and have empathy. Putting your cart away at the supermarket, that's a good one. Going out of your way for people. Making way more than I do. That's the good one. Why? Honestly, because I'm from Gen X. We were sold that equality was supposed to happen 20 years ago, and sorry, I'm not wearing a watch. Anyways.
For her to say something that's so on the nose for an abuser to say, it is beyond desperate. Look what you made me do. You made me hit you, woman.
Women are not getting abused left, right, and center. Most abusive situations, the parties are abusing each other. Sorry, guys, but you attract what you are.
All right, that was all very abusive and very Pearl to say. But, you know, that comes with somebody who believes that they are speaking from a religious point of view without actually admitting that. Oh, Genevieve, you were amazed the first time you viewed a video of people who orgasm all the time. Yeah, yes! That disorder where that poor dude! Oh my God, that poor dude! Right? It does sound like borderline narcissism. It's there's a lot of these behaviors. And I mean, I would say that, you know, online people are always throwing around a lot of psychological terms and, you know, undoctored decisions about what people have, diagnosis. The truth is we can all observe that there's some weird things going on. I think some of it has to do with rewiring of the brains. Pearl speaks from privilege. Absolutely, 100%. The ones where they're all bouncy and jerky. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, Fuzzy B. There's yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It is a very rare disorder that, like, basically all of your nerve endings are attached to the area that makes you orgasm, so your brain misinterprets every signal, like even eating is hard, apparently. Yeah, that just looked horrifying. Talk about like the wrong switch turned on. Yeah, the neurological disorders are so fascinating. There's an incredible book. I think there's a sequel to it too, called "The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat," and I need to read it again because it's their records of people's experiences as reported to a neurological scientist. and his observations about these stories, including the story of a man who mistook his wife for a hat. And some of them are fascinating. That's where the story, where that movie Memento comes from. The man who, in fact, that's partially involved. I think. Oh yeah. The character that mistook his wife for a hat is actually in the story. Anyways, yeah, psychological and neurological disorders, 2 different things, by the way. Even eating is hard. Was that a pun? Yes and no, both. Yeah. Thank you for catching. Thank you. Somebody caught. Thank you. Oh, I don't have the sound effect right now. No apparent reason. Nothing charged properly today. That's how it goes. Anyway.
I have to wonder why she would go so far to be so desperate for a crumb of male attention.
I have one answer for you.
Can I jump in here? Lonely. Lonely. Just like everybody else. Most of the people on YouTube seem to be very lonely. Most people on YouTube don't have a tan. And having a tan doesn't mean anything. It just means I went outside. I work with my hands. I do things with other people. I go see friends elsewhere. I don't sit on the internet 24 hours a day waiting for somebody to call me on the VC. In fact, I'm terrible at getting back to my... I need to do something about the Discord and all that. I'm terrible about getting around to that. I apologize to anybody who's been waiting for me to respond to them. Yeah, brainwashed. Brainwashed. One of us. Yeah, so I think the brains are being rewired over time. I think those people that have been looking at screens for a very long time have been slowly rewired to believe all kinds of nonsense. And by nonsense, I mean, we're looking at a generation of people, it's almost 15 years wide, that are arguing over body count. And this is just a subculture group. When you say this in normal life, it has no normal place. And we're looking at one of the proponents of this concept. Much less the fact that she's a lonely person. She has very little experience. She's been conned by the one person she was in any kind of a relationship with. She was dumped by both that person and her first date. How do we know this? She's told us everything. She's supported by her father's money, who's wealthy. She makes plans and never follows through. She put a lot of people into a situation where they changed their lives for her, and then she failed to follow through, failed to make it work. And instead of thinking things through, she jumped at the chance of having Nick Fuentes on her panel, which basically sent the entire plan she had initially into the dumpster, because nobody wanted to be involved with somebody who was willing to panel a bigot who associates with right-wing groups like that. Classic example of extremism gone completely wrong. And I really can't even think of any good arguments to provide to say, oh, like, there's some good examples of where this could work for some people. No, I don't fucking know, unless you're a complete, asshat who thinks that somehow everybody isn't the same, and you're really that shallow that you somehow misunderstood the way melanin works to misrepresent to yourself that there's one type of human that's better than another. Which, by the way, let me tell you something. We all got assholes, we all got opinions, and everybody loves their own brand. Have you seen how physically deformed people have become? They're hunchbacked, walk on their tiptoes, speak with utter fantasy-filled dialect as if they're playing video games or anime cartoons. Yes, that's happening. Starting to look like aliens. Yeah. I was watching a whole video of that the other night, like, are we aliens from the future? Yes, we are, of course. Ancient alien theorists say, yes, we are aliens from the future. Okay. All right. But they've never said no to anything, so.
Low self-esteem.
Oh, you have that, huh?
I haven't thought.
Oh, I need some jerky. Everybody loves a jerky.
I never thought.
I want some jerky. Give me a second.
that I deserved a lot, to be honest.
I know, we know.
I never thought of myself as a queen.
Oh yeah, we know that too.
Thought of myself.
None of us thought of that. None of us were thinking
super
that.
highly. I'm gonna.
Ooh, that was rough to watch, wasn't it?
Rough.
Possibly the most pathetic clip that I've ever seen on YouTube.
True.
That clip explains a lot about the psychology of second place Pearl. And despite it being 2 years old, not much has changed.
It seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you. They call me ugly on the internet all the time.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorgeous. I just mean
self-snitching. Second place Pearl. Self-snitch. Lita, what's happening? I have made my way via Brittany. That's Brittany Ventney in one word. We got some Chicago steak. This is amazing, by the way. Soul Reviver. What a great company. Coffee and jerky. Everybody loves a jerky. Lita loves a jerky. Some ASMR for you. I have a All right.
there a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
She's like, so you think I'm pretty? And the woman's just like, no.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorgeous.
I love how Pearl is scraping the bowl for just remnants of a compliment. Like, imagine fishing for a compliment and then getting shut down like this. It's so embarrassing. Her insecurities are still very much alive and well.
Oh,
and
yeah, they are.
They have caused her to act completely...
But see, okay. I like Brittany. Part of my point this evening, though, is pointing out how there's a lot of sacrosanct behavior that creates an extreme of one or the other. And I would argue that Brittany's form of this, being extreme and jabby and mean, that's a good thing. She's pointing out the fuckery, the bias, the unbelievable audacity of, and there's that word again, Pearl, to think that she could spout Phyllis Schlafly bullshit. I'm sorry, that's it. Yeah, it's Phyllis Schlafly. Hold on a second. Am I getting that wrong? I don't want to get that wrong. Let me just double check real quickly. I believe it's is it Schlafly? Yeah. Yes, it's Phyllis Schlafly. Sorry, just had to make sure I was it. She don't love the jerky. Everybody loves the jerky. Now, Lita's more of a Lita, you tell. I don't know. You tell me. She's made me jealous by making oxtail many times, and I get none because she's on the other coast. So, look, this one of the issues. Oh, I'm deeply biased against Pearl. I will openly admit that. I'm extremely biased against Pearl in an extremist fashion. That's not philosophical. That's insanity. That's the truth. Lita's more teriyaki. I'm gonna guess Lita, teriyaki, Lita? And a dulce de leche, perhaps? I'm sorry. It's true. I'm jealous of the oxtail need. We on the West Coast don't get it the same way either. Anyway. Yeah, Phyllis Schlafly. You know what? Hold on, let's jump to Phyllis real quickly.
A woman machinist, a skilled worker in what has traditionally been a man's job. In 1923, when a woman named
traditionally
Alice
been a
penned the
man's
first Equal Rights
job.
Amendment and submitted it to Congress, a scene like this would have been unthinkable. And indeed, it is still unthinkable to many people today. Which is perhaps why after 57 years of trying to put women in the United States Constitution, adoption of the Equal Rights Amendment has reached an impasse. Passed
they
by the Congress
said
in
impasse, so it wasn't going to get passed.
Years of debate,
Women almost didn't
hearings,
have equal liberty in the
amendment
United
simply
States.
states, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. The amendment would also give the federal government the power to enforce that principle.
It hadn't been enforced
Within
yet.
2 years,
This is
30 of the necessary 38 states
1980.
had ratified the ERA. Iowa was the fourth state to do so. But after that initial sweep, the opposition began to
Yeah, I
marshal
just
its
grabbed
forces,
you. What do you want to
and the
do
drive
about
for
it? Let's go get a
ratification
drink.
ground to a halt as it faced determined resistance. At this debate, speaking against the ERA is Phyllis Schlafly, National Chairman of Stop ERA and National President of the Eagle Forum.
By the way,
Speaking for the amendment,
if you don't know who Phil Schlafly is, that is Pearl 1.0. Every single talking point that Pearl has comes from the lady that you just saw named Phil Schlafly. And Phyllis is the archetype of the red pill. All of the things that they talk about, the trad wife, that comes from her book. That comes from her whole playbook, her whole ideology. Christian right wing. And the real background is that she didn't believe that women should vote. It's very good. No, that teriyaki is amazing. Oh my God, it's got a little spice to it. It kicked in. Anyways, Phil Schlafly is a fascinating character who reminds me a lot of Pearl, because she was actually a fairly wealthy woman and very, well, unhappy. And in the end, her story is fairly sad. Despite her having a family, they pulled back away from her. And apparently she wasn't a very nice person.
speaking against the ERA is Phyllis Schlafly, National Chairman of Stop ERA and National President of the Eagle Forum. Speaking for the amendment,
Which, by the way,
is
the
Kate
Eagle
Anderson,
Forum
State
still exists to
Chairperson
this
of the
day
Iowa
with Phyllis
ERA
Schlafly's name on
Coalition
it.
and a member of the Iowa Commission on the Status of Women. Here is moderator Diane McCumber.
The next question is, what would be the effect of the Equal Rights Amendment?
By the way,
on
shout out to 1980 colors. Hell yeah to the weirdness. Bright yellow, white, blue. Everybody's all like wearing that's an eggshell she's got on. And what's the pattern happening? We don't know. It's like some kind of festive Norwegian thing. She's wearing shoulder pads. That's the early sloped shoulder pads for women. But the cut of that jacket, I would have killed for. Everything in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is contradictory under the extremist propaganda that people like Pearl are imposing. Abso-freaking-lutely. They want to dismantle human rights in the United States. And they start with women's rights and then civil rights. These people, Phyllis Schlafly, whether they know it or not, want to create a state like Handmaid's Tale. No joke. Because they don't believe. Songwriting, what's happening? Welcome back. Yeah, they are weirdos. They are very much weirdos. They wanted to be that moment in time that I started with in the 1950s. Well, you know, sir, we sure do want to get rid of these slums. Don't worry, we've taken care of that bill right here, ma'am. And you've paid for it. You know what I'm saying?
And on equal pay for equal work. Mrs. Schlafly?
Mrs.
The
Schlafly?
biggest myth connected with the Equal Rights Amendment is that it has something to do with equal pay for equal work. It doesn't. Go back and read the language of it. It does not prohibit discrimination by private industry. It doesn't say anything about jobs. What it does is to prohibit discrimination by the United States or by any state. And so the only thing that ERA would do in the employment field is to make sure that the laws are sex equal.
Very good,
Now, the
songwriter.
employment laws are already
Thank you.
sex equal. We have the Equal Pay Act. We have the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, which prohibits discrimination in the job market on account of sex. And this applies to hiring, to pay, and to promotions.
So we don't need equal rights. Forget about that. There's already plenty of laws in certain states. How cynical could you get, right? She knows better.
Genevieve says she works in legal redress with constitutional and civil rights. It's mind-blowing what people want to bitch about versus what they should be bitching about. Yes, absolutely, Genevieve. A good friend of mine actually does very similar stuff, except he's an attorney who does research for constitutional and civil rights, or constitutional and federal law. Sorry, that's what that is. Anyway, Phyllis here would have you believe that because you have pieces of the law, you don't need the overriding rights. Don't worry about that. You can go to those places that have those rights if you want to. In her world, women only need the rights where it applies.
There's a whole federal bureau enforcing this. It's called the Equal Employment Opportunity
Very cool,
Commission.
Genevieve.
And they're enforcing it so aggressively.
In other words, you're the one who actually knows all the laws.
Businesses to give women the benefit of affirmative action. And there are many cases on record where they have required businesses to give the job to the less well-qualified woman in preference to the more qualified man in order to achieve their affirmative action quota. They have gotten enormous multi-million-dollar settlements against the biggest companies in our land. $38 million against AT&T, $30 million against the steel.
By the way, I want you to notice. You notice anything about that room? Anybody? Just me? First off, the haircut. Everybody's got the same haircut, like one of three, right? Second off, a lot of shoulder pads. And yes, it's a church, clearly. And, well, the demographic is limited. And whether or not these people believe or not, you can't tell because they're listening. But that's one of the things I want to point out to you, is how intently these people are listening. You just don't see this kind of an audience anymore. They're all staring in the same direction. Nobody has their phone out because there's no such thing as a cell phone. They're all intently listening. And that makes a difference. Because you really don't know what anybody's thinking here. Except, let's wear something that's eggshell. Oh yeah, lizard tree, I'd be throwing peanuts as well, true!
At the present time, only about 61% of the jobs in this country are covered by the Equal Pay Act. There are many government jobs that are not covered.
Oh my God, the Chicago steak is addictive. It's making me sweat.
Government jobs that are not now covered by the Equal Pay Act.
Am I supposed to eat this little packet of stuff in there?
The Equal Rights Amendment, in regard
It
to
says
all
no.
of the laws,
It says no.
has a sense of reinforcing the principle that is behind those laws. It gives recognition to the fact that this society does mean, in fact, that we shall not differentiate and distinguish and discriminate on the basis of sex in the areas of jobs and employment and opportunity. It does not cause those laws to, it does not interfere in the private sector, that is correct. But it gives a psychological and philosophical basis for the other laws that are involved with the private sector. The equal pay and the other laws dealing in this area that are in the area of government would be reinforced by the Equal Rights Amendment.
Not only that, but what has come to pass is the precedent, if I'm not mistaken. It's not salt. Yeah. One of the things that have come to pass is that the precedent, because of ERA, has pushed all of the laws to create equal pay. And that argument is still had to this very day, by the way, about equal pay. And in my mind, I think it's going to take another extreme push of effort to make sure that that is such a thing. Because it's not just that there isn't just equal pay for women to men, but there's also not equal pay for a day's work. In no way, shape, or form. Certain people who do less work end up making 10 times as much as everybody else just because they're in a position that allows them to create that large a funnel to themselves. While others might actually create an idea, they get the smallest amount because they're not in a position of leverage to create the wealth or that funnel that somebody else who had the control did. And what does that mean? It means there is no equality in pay in this culture, although there should be. Because that inequality in pay across all boundaries between women and men which is an allowance, which allows for, well, some to take advantage of the system itself. Because if you could do it to women, well, we could just do it to anybody. It just doesn't matter, right? And really, truly, that is the attitude. Shovel more up to the top, and then it'll take care of everybody because it trickles down. Trickles down theory doesn't work. And I think we need to be more extreme about the response to it, because we've seen, and some of the wealthy avoid paying taxes and putting into the system altogether that they're supposed to be supporting. And they're definitely not getting that money in profit back to the workers. Not to sound like I'm communist or sympathetic in that nature. I would consider myself loosely a democratic socialist because, well, we are a democratic socialist country in a lot of ways. And in those countries that it works well, it works very well. Happiness levels in those countries, by the way, yes, I am now full tilt sweating because ooh, it's so good. Countries who have generally high taxes, by the way, that go back into the system that the people actually feel. Those people have a higher register of happiness than we do by far. And we actually don't pay that many taxes compared to people in Europe. Tell you what, Norwegians are happy ass people. And it's cold. It's cold up there. The most controllable expense is wages, and they budget for low pay. Absolutely. Get as much off of the bottom line. Get as much in the pocket of the profit. Yeah. They try to get as cheap as they can, and that's the whole thing. That's one of the problems with our manufacturing. It's one of the problems with our quality. And if you've ever been to a country where quality is at its height, like Japan, you'll be amazed at how proud everybody is about what they make and what they do. And here, I can tell you this, I don't find people proud of what they do. They just do it because they have to. And when you do find someone proud of what they do, other people mock them as if they're not supposed to be good at it. Or everybody discounts that you might be good at your job or have reached a level of achievement simply because they haven't. And nobody they know has done anything, so you couldn't have done anything. Because that's how smart I am. And that's part of the extremism that needs to be fought. Capitalism is a grift, a pyramid scheme, and it creates poverty on purpose. Absolutely, Lizard Tree. I agree with that 100%. There is a certain needed capitalism to keep barter flow, but in limitation. Everything is good in limited sums, in balance. We're way out of balance. We're at Koyaanisqatsi, or Powaanisqatsi. Life out of balance, or the world out of balance. Anyways, what's Peg got to finish off with?
One of the things that we have to recognize in Iowa is that we do have many very fine laws in Iowa. We have had a progressive legislature in the last 4 to 8 years that have done a great deal about removing discrimination from our laws. But the Equal Rights Amendment will give a permanence to that. It will guarantee for the future the principles that have been passed in those laws now.
All right.
And if that didn't work out, then they would come crawling to me.
Second place, Pearl, the most desperate woman on YouTube. She's basically been spiraling out of control since I made my first video on her, and her reputation has taken a hit because of it. She's still up to no good, spouting any nonsense that she possibly can.
We're still looking at Peg Anderson and Phyllis Schlafly. Reasonable, yet haughty, versus religious and smarmy. One believes that, well, we should be fine, and the other, no, we're not going to be fine. Not with you around. And look at how the bullshit rolls out of you. Truly.
So that bottom of the barrel men will give her attention, saying things like, was he really abusive, or did you bring the abuse out of him? For her to say something that's so on the nose for an abuser to say, it is beyond desperate. Look what you made me do. You made me hit you, woman.
Women are not getting abused left, right, and center. Most abusive situations, the parties are abusing each other. Sorry guys, but you attract what you are.
You have to wonder why she would go so far to be so desperate for a crumb of male attention.
I have one answer for you.
Loneliness.
Low self-esteem. From a young age,
yes.
I haven't thought highly of myself.
Well, that sucks.
I never thought that I deserved.
Yeah, victim blaming and re-victimization.
I never
Pain
thought
point
of
sales
myself-
without an answer. That's her whole thing.
And I never thought of myself super highly.
Oof, that was rough to watch,
Yeah,
wasn't
right?
it? Possibly the most pathetic clip that I've ever seen on YouTube. That clip explains a lot about the psychology of second place Pearl, and despite it being 2 years old, not much has changed.
It seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you. They call me ugly on the internet all the time.
See,
I
here's
don't
the
mean to say
reductivism.
I think you're gorge. I just mean that there a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
She's like, so you think I'm pretty? And the woman's just like, no.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge.
I love how Pearl is scraping the bowl for just remnants of a compliment. Like, imagine fishing for a compliment and...
I can. I can also imagine getting to the point where we're missing the whole topic of what's important about the person. And that's my criticism here, is that the extremism of the commentary becomes cannibalistic at some point. And maybe that's just me. But when we become the fire that we're trying to put out, we're not really much better than the fire itself. And we end up lighting the whole house on fire.
and getting shut down like this. It's so embarrassing. Her insecurities are still very much alive and well, and they have caused her to act completely unhinged, especially on Twitter, where she regularly
this is true. This cannot be denied.
16-year-old chicks are... Wait, I should say in the Pearl voice. 16-year-old chicks are hotter than 26-year-old chicks. Like...
Yeah, I highlighted this before. What, Pearl? What the fuck? Pearl. You trying to get detention that bad? You're 27. That's... Yeah, Lord. Help us all.
No, she sounds fat. She can literally change the way that she presents her voice. She is choosing to have these inflections that make her sound like she's 300 pounds. She's so desperate for male attention that she's resorted to speaking this way about underage girls.
Well, because there's the pressure to play into the group. Play into the need, the people around you. Because if you were to, fight against that, they might oust you, and the people that you feel like are supporting you are actually, not actually supporting you. They're supporting the idea they think you represent.
This uncertainty of a detail as simple as his name is ironically a suited metaphor for this man generally, underlining how little the public truly knows about this man. However, for the purposes of this episode, he will be named Michel. Very little is known about Michel's life. One of the few facts known is that he dabbled in gay porn under the pseudonym Dirk, and to this day, Falcon Studios, one of the largest producers of gay pornography, still hosts his videos.
Now, what are we about to watch? We're about to watch another form of how extremity can become cult. How the belief in somebody can go so far out of control, and the balance get thrown way the hell off. Now, this is another bad version of this, but it's the kind of version where it's through self-help. What could be wrong with that, right?
Michel is often described as a very attractive man, and as the story continues, his appearance and that of others will become increasingly significant. However, outside of this, all that is known about him is in direct connection to his cult. There even is a debate on whether to call this group a cult, as people were allowed to leave and it supposedly simply was a spiritual group. I refer to it as a cult due to the indoctrination and abuse that will be discussed further on in this episode. The cult was a place that exuded positivity and the idea that people would get answers. Alan himself joined for that reason. The members remember the beginning of the cult as being an overwhelmingly spiritual and inviting environment about love and living well.
And this is where it always starts. It feels like something you're included in. It feels like something you're part of and that everybody agrees. And, yeah, this is from the channel, by the way, Ready to Glare, Veil Lifted Buddha Field Cult. And that's what we're looking at, is a group of people that were drawn together by their general interests in being good-looking, feeling superior, and sex, and spirituality. And the message of their guru, who was convincing them that these extremes that they were going to were all necessary to reach heaven. Now, this is an extreme, but it's not too dissimilar than any group here in the subcultures of streaming, gathering together in a corner, murmuring and hugging, and having their own kind of party. Now, to each their own. It's when people get hurt. It's when people get held against their will. It's when people give up all their money. It's when people believe that they can't get further because the message of the group that was once hopeful for them becomes suppressive, fear engaging. And yes, Genevieve, this is a group dedicated to absolute hedonism.
This was not my path. I got accepted into grad school. I was going to get a PhD in child psychology. I had my whole life planned out. And then I met some of these people. They were so alive, living from their heart and playing and jumping in ice-cold rivers and hiking through the forest at night. And oh my God, I want me some of that.
Some of them were some of the smartest, most beautiful people I'd ever met in my life.
We started it. This is what we wanted. It was our little utopia in the middle of this big giant city.
Constant hope, intellect, group of similar minds, people who are all very smart. Well, you know, there have been plenty of groups of people who did terrible things to themselves and others who are all very intellectual and very smart. That doesn't stop people from making mistakes or gathering together out of fear and responding out of fear. When in reality, what's necessary is to see each other as more similar. And I would argue that all of these permutations, these needs to be part of the gathering, they are the example of a low self-esteem. Because as an individual, if you can't stand on your own, what do you bring into the group? You're not bringing somebody who holds up the group. You're bringing somebody who has to be a member of the cogs. It's best to work on oneself, just to start with, and then bring in your part of the ladder system or the support structure and fit in where all of your attributes really pay off. Not just for you, but for everybody around you as well. That's really where humans excel. Unfortunately. Hey, Songwang and Lita Capretta! Welcome back.
You were being fed, like your soul was being fed with love and with inspiration and awe.
I wanted everybody in the world to experience this.
Little more.
I remember feeling so fulfilled. I said, Dad, I want to give my life to God. And he was on the next flight out there to come get me.
Many of the members were vulnerable. Some had been kicked out of home at a young age. Some experienced a violent life in the streets. Some had been forced into a religion that was fundamentalist. In the end, they all were looking for relief and for meaning in their lives. Michel told the members that he had a master who had led him to a spiritual awakening, which made them feel as though he knew more, and more importantly, knew the answers to their questions. A big part of Michel's charm was also the fact that he supposedly spoke multiple languages, was artistic, was able to dance, and was the opposite of the typical guru in that he wore Speedos and was current, compared to the stereotype of an old man in a robe. For many of the members—
Let's be honest about that. That's a banana hammock, okay? Jesus.
The Buddha field functioned as a family. They lived and ate together and were together most of the time. This made their investment deep and committed. The Buddha field became a group project in that members worked so they could each pay for their rent, for groceries, and most even went as far as buying and building whatever was necessary for the supposed family. Being in top physical condition was also a large part of the Buddha field. The members consistently exercised and lived as cleanly as possible. The group sometimes had Shakti sessions where the master, Michel, supposedly transferred his energy to them.
So not only is this inclusiveness made out of the need to rely on the group, but it's also the need to rely on the master's energy, on the leader's aura. And that's where you get these ideas of cult of personality that come out just like online with people like Destiny or Hassan or XQC, where there is this crossover of cult leader, political voice, social voice, and basically someone that doesn't care about the audience or the outcome and is just there to fill the space. And the audience doesn't know. And if they do, they don't seem to care. And they seem to enjoy the edgy over the kind, as if that's a valor thing. As if less intellect is smart. As if less thought or capability to express a whole thought is what's valued. But I would argue that is dumbing down. And that only comes into play when groups want to control narratives, want to control language, cringe, incel. I mean, these are words that people outside of the in-groups have no clue what they mean. The real world doesn't care about these things. They don't know anything about it, and it only comes up out of the streamers.
Members convulsed, fainted, and felt a new bliss, a change in themselves that made them feel as if they would never leave the cult. An ex-member refers to it as a feeling similar to being on LSD. One big concept that Michel included was called the knowing, the direct experience of God. This was taken from a Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna discloses the direct experience of God to his disciple Arjuna.
I was like, yes. That resonated with me. I was like, I knew it was possible.
The knowing was the realization of being able to see and hear and taste God.
You could only comprehend what this means to finally have
I sure do.
revealed to you in its purest form.
There's a whole video of it. It's about 8 hours long.
That was something that
go check it out yourself when I'm covering that.
I've been looking for my entire life up to that point. I had gone to school, I had a degree, I had a great job.
I think, Lito, you were the one that was pointing out that he's confabulating the ex and the current, right?
Happened. It was like,
where? Dude, if you hold on a second. Let me just point out, if you're gonna be that just fucking cynically stupid about it, let me just treat you like you are. All right, idiot. You spent hours confabulating and confusing everybody about something that was written by your ex-wife that you said was your ex-wife. Dude, nobody's that stupid, except for maybe you trying to play the little game. Okay? So go away. Have a nice life. Pee off. Thanks, dude. And if you want to check it out, it's still there. I don't hide my shit. No, I have clips for myself. I'm not going to share them with you. Go fucking disprove me. But you're going to find out in that same video that you're wrong, that you're just here to fucking, I don't know why the fuck you're here, dude. Other than trying to just basically make me want to do something about it. But there were hundreds of people watching that night, dude. So, mistake it now. Oh, which video? You can look it up. Yeah, you know which video, bro. The Night with Mike TV with Easy. Go look it up. I'm not going to fucking take my time with it beyond this. But have a nice night. And in fact, great example. Extreme pressures by groups to try to find something wrong. Why? Because they want to hide what they're actually doing. What is it that they're doing? Saying nothing. Doing nothing. Bringing nothing to the table that changes people's behaviors, mind, or attitudes. In fact, creating segregation and argument. Drama. I don't play with drama. What I do, though, is cut through all the bullshit. And by the way, if you want to make a claim that that's not the truth, go disprove it. That's how that actually works in the real world. You know that, right? I hope you do. Because Jesus Christ, I have a memory, bro. So do most other fucking normal people. No, Genevieve, don't even bother with that bullshit. Don't do their work. Everybody, that's the other thing, is there's some confusion out here. To bring up a problem and then say, no, you proved me wrong. No. You disprove. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to fucking prove shit. That's the beauty of it. As soon as you bring it up, you already made yourself the fucking false party. Acting like you don't know what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ, that's called cynical behavior, and it's a fucking lie on top of it. It's so fucking sad. Anyways, good on you. Have a great life. Piss off.
お金をもらったのはいくらぐらいなの？
2年半ぐらいやってるんですけど、2億以上。
23でさ、2億円やばくない？
Yeah, pretty much.
もう全部残ってないんで。
なんで？
Oh, I can. I'm just choosing not to because I don't play with your bullshit. None of that bullshit. You know what I'm talking about. And the fact that you're asking repeatedly, I'm simply asking you. No, you're not. You're just trying to start trouble, dude. You've already been told to piss off.
お金をもらってる時点でお前やっぱ詐欺師と一緒じゃないやってること。
Straight out. E Black.
そうだよ。
Read the room. There you go,
Imagine
buddy.
you're 18 with no skills, no education, stuck in a dead-end job, and someone told you that you needed to make $1 million in a year. Where would you get the money from? For Watanabe Mai, the answer was obvious. From men, of course. Mai developed an incredibly effective method for scamming money out of lonely
Thank you
men
very much.
and released it as a guide to help other women get rich too. Her tactics spread like wildfire on social media, but then the cops got wind of it.
By the
Mai's
way,
magic system.
Somewhere along the way, logic got really messed up here on YouTube or in streaming. And by logic, I mean the idea that some of us forget things or that we must be double checked on our information at all times, despite the fact that there are other people watching, or that somehow that, you know, some little statement can just destroy everybody's lives. Well, yeah, sure, it can. But if you want to point out something in the midst of a larger picture that is problematic about the person's behavior or a sector's behavior or a streamer's behavior, it better not be something that indicates your own bad behavior as well, because that's what's going to be pointed out by anybody who's living in the real world. Just going to let you know that.
Is genius, and I'm gonna go through all of it,
everybody.
but it is unethical and illegal. That's why I've rebranded it to the scammer system.
Woo!
Pay attention
What are we
so
watching?
you don't become a victim.
So the methods that are discussed in this video are unethical and illegal. The purpose of this video is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself from these bullshitters and scam artists and what they do to get you to play into their game. And this is going to sound very familiar. Why? Because it is a general script. It is an extreme that pushes all the boundaries. It pushes all the boundaries of people's trust, especially the lonely. Especially those that would make something out of nothing. because they don't know anybody and they don't know anything to make themselves creative or interesting. So they reach to the lowest common denominator, which is anybody or anything they can. And oftentimes it'll be the same revolution or same evolution of the same practices. You know, insanity.
And obviously, do not use it.
Okay.
All right, gang, listen up. The first thing you have to do is S, select your target. Not every guy is a good target, so if you don't choose the right ones, you're gonna waste a lot of time. Broke losers are out. You gotta find a guy who's good at making money, but bad at holding on to it.
That's exactly right.
The perfect mark is a guy who's lonely,
by the way,
isolated, and has no hobbies.
Always on regurgitated cycle. By the way, yeah, if you're not interested in the terms of the panel, or you want to talk about the thing that's being covered on this show, I'm not gonna have you on, whoever you are. Don't care if you have 1 million followers or whatever the fuck you want to say, your subs or whatever. I don't care. If I want to call somebody, I'll pick up the phone and actually get them on the show. When I really want to do that. That's what I do. But if you're not here to talk about the topics, then you're just here to be an asshat. And that's how this stuff works, by the way. Just like the day where I put up Jumbi call in and somebody else called in. I was happy to have them up, but then they wanted to talk about something else. That's some bullshit. That's rude. It's fucking like small-minded behavior. And would you do that? It's like not taking your shoes off when you walk into somebody's house. Yeah, but everything's on its head over here because it's witch hunt season. Oh, not around here. Call me Van Helsing.
No meaning in life who's not fulfilled. Ideally, he has nobody who relies on him and no interactions with women.
And by the way, if what she says is resounding with you with, oh, that must just be men. No. People in general. Lonely people. People who are stuck in cycles that they can't break out of. People who are afraid to experience new things. And then they find someone who comes into their life and says the things that they want to hear. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's a lot of streamers. You'll see, she says jargon that means very little, and that doesn't conclude anything. Yeah, that sounds very fucking familiar.
The reason Mai knows this is the best type of man to target is because she used to work in what the Japanese call the night industry, if you know what I'm saying. One evening, she desperately
By the way,
texted
prostitution, if you didn't know, in Japan is incredibly accepted. I don't know if I share this or not, but it is wildly accepted. They have setups for it that are just strangely impressive in a very odd way. Like, why are there teams of women out here all in like uniforms? What's going on? I not that I've taken part in that, but I've been in Tokyo, and after a certain hour, suddenly the teams come out on the street, and it's very obvious what's going on right in the middle of Shibuya. It's fascinating. The culture is so different, by the way.
Guy on her
But
contact
one thing
list
isn't.
asking for money,
Lonely
and the only
people
reply she got was
buying
from the
into
loneliest,
bullshit.
most unfulfilled guy she knew. When it comes to the kind of guy you should avoid, Mai recommends staying away from playboys and F-boys, the kind of guys who are self-centered and only interested in a physical relationship. As I mentioned
'cause they
earlier,
actually
you
want
want a guy
something
who's
out of you.
unfulfilled and lonely,
So
so,
though
you
that
should
doesn't work.
avoid guys who have a fulfilling life.
Oh, he wanted me to prove that he said ex-wife on the 8-hour stream with back with Mike TV, months back. All that uneasy, because I mentioned it in chat, no less. Talk about obsessive. That's 3 days ago. That's what I'm talking about here. Where is the extreme okay, and where does it work, and where is it turn into negative? Extreme is bad? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes makes you look like a damn fool. And by that, expecting that I'm going to produce something for him? Knowing full well it'd just be an embarrassing show for him. Yeah, he could have sent an email. No, he can't. No, he can't. But he could. He could. I would just be ignoring that shit. But Lita, I mean the gall, right? What the fucking wow. Avoid guys with hobbies. Yeah, and this is what is so important about this video. Exactly. True, Genevieve. What's so important about this video is that she's not just talking about men. She is, in her case. But this applies to all the lonely people. This applies to why people fall into these different camps and want to segregate off and, you know, point at other people as some kind of thing and look for problems where they don't exist. Which I think is funny is, Lita, this actually goes along with what we were talking about, like just trying to create more drama out of the same fucking thing and then confabulating it with the current situation. That's so stupid. God. Yeah, of course. You probably waited until you left. If you can't show it to me. No, I choose not to. I'm not gonna sit through that. That's not the topic of the fucking show. I don't know how dense people really are, but it seems to be that people are really fucking dense sometimes, especially when they're so set on disproving things that are like, yo, if that's the fact, just fucking go find the clip. I have them. They're available. I made clips all night long during that show. But then there's also the 9-hour stream or whatever the fuck it is. It was just fucking ridiculous. All told, it's just like, especially while I'm doing this. You really want me to just sit and harp?
趣味があるお家、旅行行くのが好きだったり、バイクが好きだったり、生活が充実している人、友達が多かったりとか。
And you gotta avoid guys who are full of themselves. Guys who flash money around may seem like ideal targets, but
You
they're
get a
savvy
dollar.
and
You get a
self-centered,
dollar.
making
My
it
name is
difficult to
Jake. You
manipulate.
get a dollar.
Now that you've selected your target, it's time to seek, cultivate
That was a white boy
trust.
moment, wasn't it?
信頼関係構築、知らない人とか、
Cultivate trust. Look at what she's
お
doing.
金くれない人が言われたとしても、渡そうと。
思わないね、普通の人は。やばいやつから声かけられたってなるね。
If he doesn't trust you, why would he give you money? So you gotta make him trust you. The best way to do
Oh,
that is to make him
Einstein
feel
there.
like you're his girlfriend. That means texting him all the time, every day, when you wake up, throughout the day, before you go to sleep. You need to make him feel like he's special to you.
おじくんと話してると落ち着くな。私男の人苦手なんだけど、おじくんと話せるんだ。これって。
You're the only ones who understand. Another term, albatross. Yeah, true. You're the only one who understands me. You make me feel special. Must trust you to give you money. Yeah, Lita. It's a thing. And never ask. Never ask. She gets into this whole thing is never ask. So that's another thing is if you notice the real big culty streamers, they never ask for money. It's just thrown at them. And now, mind you, we all, and I've talked about this, we all support our stream. We all support our show. But those that never build out on their show while receiving all the funds, that tells you something about what they think about their own audience and their show. They don't think much of it at all. They don't even know they're doing a show because they're not putting back into the show because you're not seeing a set, you're not seeing any growth. Anna Akana, that's putting money back into your show. Epic rap battles, that's putting money back into your show. Smosh, that's putting money back into your show. Mr. Beast, that's putting money back into the world. Which, by the way, the most recent Mr. Beast video of him doing well that's incredible. That's some incredible, and by the way, more power to him. I don't care what you think. He's actually one of the good examples of somebody who's now a billionaire who's sharing his wealth in some way, even if he's making videos of it. I don't care. He's trying to actually help people, which is something most people don't even do. And for the person who has the most subs on YouTube, the majority of everybody who's on YouTube is actually subbed to that person. Out of 200 million subscribers, he has 175 million or something like that. It's like unreal, right? I'm sure he's flawed. And there's a cult in there too. But the point is that you don't find kind people leading into the most vulnerable sections of what's wrong with others. Playing to their fears, playing to their needs and wants. No, you give them the truth. And if that's turns some folks off, that's going to turn them off. Life goes fucking on. It's when those people need you to be there. Or get you to be there because you have to be included, to feel included. That's when the scam is underway.
特 特別なんだって思わせるような。
思わせるって言ってんじゃん。やっぱ騙そうとしてる。
The next thing you gotta do is learn everything about him. Stuff like, what time does he wake up? What does he do on his days off? What was his childhood like? If you skip this step and try to extract money without making him fully trust you, he'll get suspicious and you will fail. Mai gives examples of her favorite messages to use on guys. Stuff like, messaging you first thing in the morning has become the highlight of my day, and it feels so nice to say goodnight to you. Okay, now that you've got him to trust you, it's time for the fun part, extracting cash.
Yeah! And anytime you hear the word him, just say them. Happened there. Yeah, anytime him, just say them. Because this applies to everybody. Truly everybody. Because in the end, what they want is a connection of trust, of faith and authority that may not exist. But the smile, oh yeah. They'll say the smile, or the anger, or the pain. My Genevieve, wow, that's amazing. That's astonishing to hear. Your experience, she says, her experiences in advocating for sex trafficking victims has taught her so much. There's a huge difference between a prostitute and a traffic victim. These people, men included, are groomed for success. True, and they start men from boys, I'm not mistaken. You know, come on. Hey, welcome back, Song Wang. They become victims when they are forced. Yeah. And I mean, I think that there's victims, even when they're not forced, victims of their own tragedy, which is part of the extremist negative. The point where people start to lose faith in one thing or another, whether it be their family or their society or their culture or their whatever it be, the surroundings or themselves. And then they start falling into these calls for association or similar things that seem sensible. And there's camaraderie. But really, it's a scam.
To do this, we will start by A, arousing concern. Basically, you need to make him think that you're in danger and that the solution is for him to give you some money. Mai refers to this part as casting a spell on him.
You're a complete sociopath.
Don't interrupt.
To start, abruptly stop texting him for 2, 3, or even 4 days. He'll get worried about you and probably spam you with messages. Don't open them. Hold out. Once he's ready, find a time when you think he's home and ready to have a conversation. Say something like,
I'm sorry I didn't message you, but I was too embarrassed to tell you what I've been dealing with. I'm being chased by debt collectors.
Don't elaborate. Make him ask for details and slowly trickle them out to him. Make sure you're ready with your story. Prepare all the specific details beforehand.
Example, I'm behind on rent.
He'll say, since when?
2 months ago.
Why haven't you paid?
Example, the other side is coming for your things. Example, the other people are just stupid. They don't understand what we do. Example, we're all going to lose out if you don't join. There's someone dangerous amongst us. No different. I'm behind on rent. Oh no, we care about you. We want to do something about this. Let's go to action. That call to action is where the danger begins in any of these groups.
The economy, medical bills, whatever.
What happens if you don't pay?
I could get evicted, or my parents might find out.
If you've done things correctly, you now have a trusting guy who's sympathetic to your financial troubles. Now, is it time to ask him for money?
No.
Actually, Mai never directly asks for money. Instead, the next step is to mention solutions.
And that's
that
a powerful,
don't really solve
actually,
the problem.
thing, by
These
the
are
way,
things like,
because
I've been talking to someone who says he'll lend me the money.
people are
but
giving it
he's
to her
connected
on
the
their own.
Yakuza.
Obviously, your guy doesn't want you to get money from the Yakuza, but he's probably not ready to pay yet. So his first instinct will be to come up with all kinds of solutions that get him off the hook.
It's always someone
Things
who
like,
creates a
have you
threat to the
considered
corporation.
speaking to a lawyer? Or have you asked your parents for help? He's like a worm trying to wriggle away. Anticipate these questions and be ready with answers. Things that make him feel bad, like,
Lawyer, I told you about this because I trust you. I don't want to tell somebody else about this.
or
Go to my parents. They hate me. I ran away from home, remember?
at this point, if you've done everything right and he trusts you, he will offer to pay your debt. Mai has a rule where you have to refuse the first time, but eventually give in and accept his money.
And this is no different than any of the groups. This is no different than how the actual grift of even belief goes down. Forget about the money. It's the trust. It's the connection. Con, in con man or woman, means confidence. Getting you to believe them. Getting you to trust them. To the point where you'll just believe they're part of your normal circle. That is no different than a lot of what these groups do, advertently or inadvertently. Whether it be a political group or a social group or a religious group or philosophical group. Or a rock group, true. Snake oil salesman. The con man is no different. Do you know the difference? Do you know if you're in that group? I'd ask you to check your own self. Do you look for ghosts? Do concepts that cause pain interest you? Well, you may be a concerning factor to other people. And if you found a group that feels like you do, well then most of us should be concerned about it. And when someone like myself comes upon it, you're going to find us pointing it out. Oh, Lizard Tree, I give because I want to buy. I have had someone try to shame me for it. Yeah, that's ridiculous, yeah. Most know until someone shows them, true. And that's the deprogramming side of it. You wouldn't know, and a lot of times, grift or con is never reported. Not never, but in a lot of cases, in the majority of cases, because of people's embarrassment. And con men, real con men, they rely on that. They rely on the embarrassment to keep people's mouths shut. Now, that same behavior is a leveraging in the group effect of in-group, out-group. Am I part of something? Am I, I'm going to get doxxed. They're going to turn against me. You never know until you're on the outs. We can look at Essentology and see similar factors that are actually ingrained in their system from the points of, the ability to lie, cheat, and steal and hurt others if they're no longer, or if they're suppressive. Hey, buddy. Which is astonishing when you think about that, because that means somebody's moralities and ethics just go right out the door if you aren't the same as them. I would say that applies in a lot of fashion to many of these groups. And it's just still, let me say this again, TV shows. And the only difference is that you get to take part in a conversation with other people watching the show. So why is it now suddenly a thing where people getting hurt, are getting taken advantage of, are taking down a primrose path where their names and families and Facebook pages are outed and terrible things are said about them that are just made up? Why? Because the extrapolation of the con man has now filtered into what used to be just a religious sect kind of concept. Now it is a true foreshadowing of the future fascism, of the future segregation and separation, the disenfranchisement and segregation of ideologies amongst all of the subculture groups that become so fractured that nobody can get along. And you're going to say to me, if you're going to say to me, look, that could happen, but is that happening? Yes, that's happening right now. And it doesn't take a lot of people. No, it just takes a subculture group, a large subculture group of many different groups, all in their own vein, affecting their own group. And it takes, like I said before, just a match over here and a match over there. It's not the big fire. That gets pointed to and put out. No, it's all the little fires you can't keep up with it all combined to become one fucking bonfire. Oh, somebody's looking for some dove over here. So they get nervous and we call their bluff. True. That's one thing. When you really confront people, most of the time they run. Especially with, like, logic. Somebody shows up here with a confrontation with nothing to counter other than, you show me. No, that's not how it works, bro. That's not how it works anybody, by the way. You better be ready. Especially if you know what's being spoken about, it's like ridiculous. Oh my God, that's so ridiculous. There's only one time we were ever in the same place at the same time. Oh, twice, sorry. That's incorrect. It was the second time. But we didn't speak about that. We didn't speak about any of those terms. So it's even funnier when I think about it. It's so stupid. Terrible big business practices. But you see how people will just misconstrue or misrepresent or think to themselves in a delusional fashion that despite the fact that it says what it says, and I'm sharing a topic like I am, that none of that matters. Nothing matters in some of these subculture groups. Why? Because it's a nihilistic mindset with a lot of hyperbole and rhetoric covering the actual behaviors that are bad. And that is extremism in a negative fashion. And I'll say I'm extremist in a way that, like, most people can't handle because I'm confrontational. Not passive. Not passive aggressive. Just straight aggressive. Yeah, he did follow Daryl here. Yeah, absolutely. He clearly followed Daryl here. Obsessive and strange. Great example of some of the weirdness of behaviors. And it should be noted that sometimes these folks need the negative attention. They need that connection because they don't have anything else. It's a sad state of affairs. I've heard even one person project that, well, if you're here and you're streaming, you definitely don't have anything else to do. Well, I can tell you from my own experience, that's not true. There's a lot of people here who've got lots of other things to do that are sharing information, sharing conversation, sharing discourse, or dialectic that have plenty to do. We just don't live in Discord and on Twitter and then keep swapping to Reddit and jumping around. We don't live our whole lives having this nonsense logic. The philosophy is bad publicity is better than no publicity. Exactly. Negative attention at any and all costs. Harping on things that are not only disprovable, but harping on concepts that are built around jargon, like we were looking at last night with Princella. Just straight jargon. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean anything. And all of the references are like terrible, like nonsense reference. You're good. I'm sorry to hear you had a rough day, Mystery Sky. I'm so glad you missed me telling someone to piss off. Yeah, they'll find a way to improve their techniques by the time they come back full circle. True. And some people getting targeted as a scapegoat to get other members of the group to defend and support. The dynamics are very clear. Yeah, self-evident. True lizard tree. And it's amazing how, like, when you don't engage completely, but you rather, call it out for what it is, or when you acted the way that you would if you were on the street corner, like I tend to do, you're good. Run it back. It's a really. I want to clip it. I'm just gonna have it on like speed clip where it's like, piss off, you cynical, piss off. That stuff makes me actually like. You want to get me upset? Why? Because it is the most inane, low vibe, low IQ shit Like, give me a goddamn break. You think everybody... I said it that night. You know, when you're outside your sycophants, that shit does not work at all. And no matter how much you deflect and Dunning-Kruger yourself out of, you know, the conversation and cognitive dissonance with some of these folks, as far as like those folks' actions of cognitive dissonance, no matter how far they take it, you know, it doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them capable of even understanding it. So it's not even worth engaging with them, which is why I said what I said, because it's not worth engaging with that person. Not at all. There's nothing to gain. I have no interest in it. I said what I said because that's the truth. Them coming to me is actually a sign that they're afraid that they got caught. That's the other portion of it. Yo, why are you fucking self-snitching, bitch? Be real. In my real voice. That's some self-snitching shit. Like, you don't have to go completely quiet. They'll have a near coronary just by thinking you're around. Exactly. Just standing here like, uh-huh. Mm. That's why I always stop in a little bit. True. So I also came here to try some, to get some bullshit ass drama farm going. Exactly! Exactly, Lita! Exactly like, bruh. First off, I don't do drama that way. If I was to do drama that way, I'd make it something exciting. It'd be a setup. It'd be a LARP. There'd be a lot of people involved. And I've talked about doing that. No, when I do drama, it's different. And those who know, know. And I don't like it. Because I handle it. And I don't like the fact that I have to. I'd rather be expositionary and tell stories and talk about stuff like this and talk about, you know, whole panel and you know, commiserate. Yeah.
Success.
Some of these folks are pretty far out, and I'm glad that happened.
It's not
actually
over yet. The next
pretty
part
far
is
out.
crucial. You need to make him feel like a hero. Mai calls this part aftercare.
Yeah, Lita. I mean, what? A good LARP you don't identify. An average LARP you can tell because there's too much organization, and they tend to be sloppy about it. A mid LARP is... I was about to say something terrible, but pretend to be a LARP. Didn't you all ever watch The Birds? Oh, that's true. I forgot about that from... Yeah, allow the energy to boomerang. True. Absolutely. I also find that, you know, a lot of these folks that are so sure of themselves, they never want to hop up. And for some of them, I wouldn't even entertain them anyways, because they're not on topic. Oh, you thought of something? Where are you going? What did I say? I have to run it back. What did I say? What do you mean? How did I say your name that way? Lita. 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 Anyhow. Sorry, I got a little itch in my ear. There we go. Yeah. This is, by the way, from Japan Analysis.
And she stresses, seriously, look how many extra characters she added here for emphasis, that this aftercare is the most important step. You need to make him feel like a white knight who saved the princess. Say things like,
"Thank you so much. You've given me a place to sleep tonight."
Give him a breakdown of exactly how you spent the money. Hint at your bright romantic future together and tell him what horrible things might have happened if it wasn't for him.
"If I hadn't met you, I might be dead right now."
Or,
"You saved my life. Please don't ever leave me."
You're the only viewers, the only subscribers who could ever get this. You're the heroes of the world. You're the ones who can really figure it out. Only this little group of people really understand the depths and nuances and dynamics and blah, 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 blah. Confidence. Gaining your confidence like a material to gather themselves up in. But who are you feeding? The group? The person? Who are you really feeding? Are you feeding your soul? Welcome back, Lita. Hold on, let me run this back. Hold on.
Future together and tell him what horrible thing, like.
Thank you so much. You've given me a place.
Oh,
to
I know what I
sleep
said.
tonight.
Yeah, don't
Give
worry.
him
I
a
was joking.
breakdown of exactly how you spent the money. Hint at your bright romantic future together and tell him what horrible things might have happened if it wasn't for him.
If I hadn't met you, I might be dead right now.
Or,
You saved my life. Please don't ever leave me.
you need to make sure that he feels warm and fuzzy about giving you the money. If you skip this step, who knows what could happen? But if you did it correctly, this sets you up in perfect position to end or repeat. If Mai thinks the guy doesn't have any more cash left, or if she's put him in too much debt already, she'll try to let the conversation die out and move on to the next guy. But most of the time, if you wait a few weeks or months, you can loop back to the start and try to get money from him all over again. Mai says most of her targets pay her.
This little practice is no different than the arcs. Yeah, you heard me. All of this practice is a cycle that some people seem to have found early on or knew about it, and they just brought it to YouTube in like a kayfabe way. Other people brought it from the street. Let's go! I'll watch it, Lita, you know. Some people learn it from watching others. Some people don't even realize they're doing it because they're just unaware.
More than once.
生きてるおじさん。
ほうほうほう。
隣に大炎上になっちゃって、僕がお休みとか取ってくるから。
今
後で電話してみる。あ、この人はもう2000万以上いただいてます。
Damn!
はい。
She even has a guy who
20
buys her
million
the
yen.
new iPhone every
That's
year.
about
In her
like, I
4-year
think it's
career,
10 grand
it's
or
likely
something like
that
that.
Mai scammed over $2 million from desperate men.
Damn.
And she was proud of it too.
Holy
Mai
shit.
didn't hide her lifestyle at all. She even brought $60K in cash to this interview. The interviewer is a massive Japanese YouTuber, and the reason it happened at all is because she's a fan of his and was spamming him for attention. He asked really good questions, and she ended up looking pretty bad.
2億円人からもらってるわけじゃないですか。
200
それは
million.
収入としてちゃんとやってるの。
That's in yen, by the
確
way.
定申告的なやつだよ。
知らなかった。
お前脱税してるのそれ。まあいや、マジで犯罪者なんだけどこの人。犯罪者だよお前普通に。
じゃあこれ。
お前逮捕だよもう。
Yeah, right? Like, she
お
drew.
前捕まえるからね。もう嘘つきでしょ。でしかも嘘つきを量産させてるよ。お前とんでもない嘘つきだよ。でもよくインタビューで出て
And
くれ
her
たね。
little, who, me? Oh my? Oh no! I feel the same way when you see any of these streamers be, well, aggressively approached to say, yo, your ideas are totally off base. All your concepts are just hyperbole and rhetoric based around half-witted ideas that aren't really practiced part of principled life or any kind of societal norm. Now, sometimes societal norm can be wrong, of course. But still, the ideas being bandied about by some of these groups are so fringe and be talked about as if they're so normal. And they're not. Taking men's money, evading taxes, true fucking queen. Yeah, I know. She flew the streets. What I love is she really didn't know she was a criminal. She thought she had no clue. That's a real criminal when you don't even know how criminal you are.
Afterwards, she threatened to go to the cops if he released it, but he released it anyways. Giga Chat. Why did Mai want to be in the public eye so badly? Perhaps she just wanted attention, but there was
She
another
really
reason.
didn't know.
The guide we went through earlier, she was selling it for $300 a pop, and
what's the song? Johnny doesn't know. Johnny doesn't know.
Business was
Tommy
booming.
doesn't know. That's what it is,
今まで
right?
購入者がいたの。何人
Jimmy doesn't know? Jimmy, I can't
2000
remember.
人以上。まあナミさん買わないでくださいね。
This was the beginning of the end for Mai. Remember when I mentioned that
Over
aftercare is the most
2,000 of her
important
guide
part?
was
Another
sold.
reason
I
for
wonder how
this
many
is because
languages it
guys
was
who feel scammed go to
translated
the
into.
cops. Unfortunately for Mai, some of her students must have skipped that chapter, specifically 19-year-old convenience store employee Ieda Miku, who, after buying Mai's guide, scammed around $100,000 out of two men by lying that she was going to be forced to appear in a certain kind of video if they didn't help her. After they paid
The
her,
corn
she
pops
didn't
up.
do any aftercare. In fact, you could say she did negative aftercare. To both men, she sent a message, "Miku has been kidnapped," and blocked them. And when two men bring such an absurd story to
Scotty
the Nagoya
doesn't know.
police within 1
Scotty
month,
doesn't
they
know.
start to connect
Don't
the
tell
dots.
Scotty.
They quickly
Yeah.
tracked down and arrested Miku, found the guide on her phone, and then arrested Mai for aiding and abetting. This put Mai's face on the
Damn,
news,
Japanese
which made
law.
quite a few of her past victims realize they were scammed and go to the cops. Because guys were finally coming forward, they were able to arrest Mai 2 more times over the next couple months. One of the most interesting things they found...
Pitifully familiar, right? Yeah, that's why I'm sharing it. This behavior that has been indoctrinated to a whole group of people to throw their ethics and morals and ideas of what is okay to do right out the window. Yeah, no longer queen behavior. She went to prison. In a bad way. Here, I'll play the rest of it. Hold on a second.
After arresting her is that she never had any savings. She was essentially living paycheck to paycheck. Well, other people's paycheck to paycheck. Every month, she was spending all of the money she received.
All of the
on
money.
What, you might ask? Host clubs. A host club.
Irony. Hold on a second. Irony. Host clubs. They're not prostitution places. No, they're for lonely people who want to pay someone to just hang out with. And the whole gag is they get you to drink all night long until you don't remember drinking. And you start ordering drinks that you don't remember ordering. And those drinks are very expensive. And then they convince you to buy a bottle of champagne or alcohol that normally costs 5 times what it normally would. And then you start paying their hourly fee. Yeah. She wasted all the money. Women's rights and women's wrongs. Okay, I like that one. That's good. I
It's a place
support.
where women pay
I
for the
support
company of
human
charming men.
learning too.
Hosts give them attention and entertain them with conversation and alcohol in a controlled social setting. Host clubs can be cheap if you go once in a while. The first visit is heavily discounted, but if you become a regular, they're really expensive.
Yes.
In Mai's case, she was a bit more than a regular.
これはホストクラブに使います。
She fell in love with a host, specifically this guy, and spent so much money at the club, the staff started calling her Mother Teresa. The only reason Mai started scamming was host clubs. Before host clubs, Mai was just a normal student with a part-time job. Host clubs made her want money, which is why she got
By the
into
way, do you see
nightlife.
how their clubs
That
are?
still
They are
didn't make
beautiful.
enough, so she
The
started
clubs
scamming her
over
clients.
there
In
are
the end,
astonishing.
host clubs were her downfall.
I'm not talking about the
Even
host
when
clubs.
she
I'm
was
just saying
making
about
hundreds of
their
thousands
club
of dollars a
environments are
month. She was
amazing,
living
isn't
in
it?
capsule hotels, so she had more money to spend at the host club.
Wow.
On October 27th, Mai was in the news again, the 4th time in 2 months. But this time, it wasn't her being arrested.
patronage
it was
will
the
not be
host and his
forgotten.
manager. They
This
were
person
Oh,
was
wow. Thank you. Wow. Whoever that was, thank you so much. That is very kind of you. Thank you for supporting the stream. And, oh, hey, it is. I hopefully won't die before I hit this. Oh, come on, come on. No, don't do that. Yes, open up. Give me the blah, blah, blah. I thank you so much for supporting the stream. And I promise you that soon I will be adding more effects and more things because of the donations and the those supporting. Thank you. That's awesome. So whoever did that, and I'm gonna have to guess. Somebody. Thank you. That means a lot to me. So it's a lot to do. You have to go out of your way. So it's very cool. And you will see adjustments and changes when I get to certain little, spots. There's this Elgato thing that'll let me change all the scenes and stuff really fast and add effects. So it's really cool. Every dollar helps. And like I said, at some point, I'm planning on really expanding out the show. So amazing. You guys are raw. Thank you.
Receiving dirty money from Mai. But how can they prove the hosts knew the money was dirty? How about a text message found on Mai's phone from the host saying, "I'm your accomplice now. I'll be arrested with you."
Oh,
Speaking
damn.
of this host guy, everyone's talking about this fish-shaped kettle of his. Apparently, he bought it for like $25 on Amazon and served Mai soft drinks in it. For this luxurious service, he charged her around $100,000.
Yeah.
On November 3rd,
I'm sorry.
Mai
That
appeared
is
in
baller
court.
move
Her
right there.
appearance had changed a lot, and she was wearing glasses. She pled guilty to
So
both
countered
aiding the
everything I've
scams
just
with
been
the
saying.
guide and the scams that she did herself. The only new information we learned during the trial is that she has a husband who's Vietnamese. She hasn't been sentenced yet, and there's another trial coming in December.
コメントがあるとしたら、コメント欄はどうなりますか？考えるの使うなら。
いや、わかんない。それはリリちゃん可愛いになってるかもしれないよ。
気にならない。
確かに。
You know, I've actually worked at a host club. I made a bonus video where I tell that story and talk a bit about the channel and why the videos take so long. It's free on my Patreon. You don't have to sign up. Link in the description. Check it out. Also, thanks to my patrons, and thank you for watching.
Anyhow, that's from Japan Analysis. We actually watched that whole video. It's about 12 because it's such a fascinating example of just a little archetype that seems to be proliferated everywhere when it comes to very popular players. Oh, how did she fumble it so bad? This is women's wrong. Yes, she fumbled that bag hard because she was spending it all. She was not playing the grift in any way that made it so that people wouldn't notice, despite the fact that she had all these lessons. But that's what happens with a lot of these folks. The whole of their ship crumbles underneath because of their bad planning or their bad behavior, or they get out of control. And you can always see them out of control because they can't actually regulate
poor news coverage. And since then, has he taken the criticism in good faith, becoming a better political commentator?
They're bad behaviors.
No, of course not. It's Hassan.
They
He's
tend to
delusional.
double
he
down on
hasn't changed a bit. He will still sit there blindly saying stuff about Gaza while the article on stream is proving him wrong.
After the takeover, Israel and Egypt imposed a blockade over the Strip as a way to stop them from importing weapons, and also any secondary materials that could be used to make weapons. Just by their own admission alone, we know that they have the capacity to produce their own weapons with support from Iran.
Yeah, no, I think that's bullshit too. Again, like, that's what Israel claims, and that's the reason why...
That's what Hamas claims. That's what Hamas claims.
The receipt is right in front of him. And despite his bias being on full display, describing himself as a self-propagandist...
Make no mistake, the posters are propaganda. Of course they are. But just like I do propaganda, right?
Will at the same time claim that his coverage has been even-handed.
Since day one, I have been incredibly even-handed and
Well, okay, good. You just pat yourself on the back there, Hassan. Yeah, you just get pat yourself on the good back there. Yep. This is another thing. Who made these people the arbiter? I can tell you I made myself an arbiter of my own opinions. But that's about it. You can take them or leave them. I don't really care. I hope you hear them. Hope some people align with them. But I don't really care if you do or don't. I'm here to talk. Now, it's nice when people do. But it's not imperative to my ego. It doesn't make my bank account grow. Good Lord knows. But for this guy and others, it's all of their being. Anything to essentially suck their own dick. Flip their own bean. Self-aggrandize. Pat oneself on the back as much as you can. I do so well. I'm just a humble little dude living in a multi-millionaire's mansion with a sports car, and but I'm a socialist, and I don't pay my editors or my Redditor editors or my... No, I don't pay most people. It's just me. Ow. This guy.
Tempered in my coverage. I've been incredibly even-handed and incredibly tempered in my coverage for obvious reasons, even though inside of me a fire burns, okay?
Hassan is very talented at making his mistakes seem inconsequential. And if somebody proves him wrong, he twists that into them being the bad guy. We all know Hassan jumped the gun when it comes to the Gaza hospital being bombed.
Sound familiar?
Israel. And when his chat corrected him, he demonized them.
You bad faith, apartheid defending, bloodthirsty genocidal freak.
He then goes on to speculate missile technology because that's easier than admitting he's wrong.
If there's a deployment, like an activation that Israeli munitions have that can detonate way before it impacts the ground.
This is such a joke. He has no
clue what he's talking about, but he's just running wild. I bet that they tried. Yeah, I get dizzy when I try to contort, and my old man thinks I'm crazy. It's very. Yeah, you know they've tried. They got the time in their hands. Somebody probably told them they could. Bet you one of them got a rib removed. Anyways, point being is that when you can admit when you're wrong, knowingly that you were wrong, not only is it an ego thing, but it's also a message to the people who watch you. If you're a creator, content creator, a streamer, an artist, it's a bad example. Not just a bad example, but if you just never capitulate to the wrong, or never capitulate, or never at least just say, prefacing, oh, I made a mistake, or X, Y, and Z. Well, your audience thinks that's okay. And then at some point, that gets mixed up with the, well, you know, Destiny said saying the N-bomb wasn't so bad because other people say bad things and they're using the word Karen as a negative, so I should be able to say the N-bomb because that's what we say in the video games. No. Just like how penis pics, dick pics, what's going on there? They're becoming much less popular, except by the real freaks. You know, they're still sending them. Women apparently aren't getting them like by the bucketful anymore. They're just more like by the cupful. Thank goodness. It's no longer raining dick. Good for you. Can't imagine. That would suck. Point being, that's changing. That culture's changing, and people are picking up on the fact that there's a message. I have an N-word ready for everyone. Word for everyone ready? Sure. Which one is it? I know, I know. Nuptials? Nicety? Nipples? New Balance. No, it's 2 words, sorry. Anyway. I use this guy because he's got way more viewers than the Smurf. And I never cover him. And he's Neanderthals, evolve and get the fuck over. I added the fuck in there, but yes! Stop acting like we live in the 16th, Dark Ages. Neanderthals had some culture. They're apparently pretty happy people. They got along with others in most cases. Neanderthal is a thing. And there's a couple different groups of them, by the way. Big heads, huge heads. Little people, big head. Oh, stocky. Just stocky. I don't often cover. In fact, I don't think I've ever really covered Hassan. I've been very well aware of this person. But it's so boring. It's so meaningless. It is so jargon-filled. It makes Destiny look like it's sensible. And when I say that, I mean like Destiny is more the like pretend to have a neurological disorder so that you don't have to make any sense and you can pull bullshit on everybody around you, but really truly you're just a sociopath, you know, that kind of thing. That's that group. The cult of sociopaths. All look at each other going, oh, it's okay to be shitty to people and I mean nothing. It's just me, my ego. Ah! It's fucking Ayn Rand on crack. Hassan is the opposite direction. He actually has a much larger following. This is, I want to make people feel like I care, but I don't really care. But I do watch Hassan. And that's where I get my news. That's that side. Entitled, you name it. Believe anything you tell them as long as you tell them that they align with you, that kind of stuff. It's all just mirroring each other. Except in this case, this guy, as Willie Mack will tell you, loves disinformation.
They're upgrading your key storage as well. The rich key case organizes up to 6.
Really frustrating that, like, this is a fundamental thing I believe in and I advocate for and I practice what I fucking preach, and yet motherfuckers still always say that I'm actually fake.
A lot of Hassan fans are mad at me because I called Hassan a fake socialist, a hypocrite. Oh, socialism man has money. Socialism man bad. You are not allowed to critique capitalism if you have money, LOL. No,
By the way, this is the logic. It's idealistic at best, extremist at worst, and exceptionalist, binary and basic. And all these folks think that they're being the smartest person in the room. Contrarians are the assholes, the pills that nobody likes. They're the insufferable people. Contrarians, monotone contrarians, are the people nobody wants to hang out with except other monotone contrarians who tend to hate themselves. So in the end, the person you're hanging with in that situation is going to be semi-sadistic, likely, or reductive in consideration. In other words, not giving a damn. Why? Because they don't care about themselves. They don't care about anything. If you're worried about being edgy, you're not worried about kindness or being good to others or making things work or cooperation or anything. Glow sticks, break them, shake them, hope that they glow. We all know that they eventually stop glowing, so discard them and get new ones. True. You're not allowed to critique capitalism if you have money. That's not what was said, but okay, that's your misunderstanding, and now you've told us that you think that's funny, that you misunderstand. Cool. Thanks, Thomas Cross. You must be 22. Tyler Savage, 2795. Also, in his early 20s, late teens. Oh, socialism man has money, socialism man bad. No, that's also not what was said, but thank you for being a reductive asshat, Tyler Savage. Kyle Palange, 6870. They notice that these people, they don't even take the time to make a character. They're that lazy. They just put their name in. These are Facebook binds, basically. So no iPhone equals socialist? Please, read just a little column. Just please, I beg you. Of what? Read crumb of what? Make a reference. You want to make something smart? Use intellect. Make a reference. Premise. Example. Summary. You know, junior high school. Anyhow.
Don't equal socialist? Please read just a crumb. Please,
More jerky.
I never called Hassan a hypocrite because he's rich. I called Hassan a hypocrite because he advocates that companies should profit share with their employees while he pays his employees absolutely nothing.
As a socialist, right? Does that carry over to your Twitch?
To
your
who?
podcast?
To who? To what?
To editors? To moderators?
Yes.
So you're paying moderators or a head of moderation?
No, not editors and not moderators. I don't want
Even
moderators
West James,
to
how
come
you feeling?
On board
Good to see you.
exclusively because they want to, use this as a job opportunity.
That's subjectively hypocritical. And let's face it, it's just funny to watch Hassan act like he's a blue-collar worker on
Let's listen to Hassan talk about being a millionaire makes it so that he doesn't want other people to have a job opportunity out of his work. That's weird. Not only is it weird, it's selfish and egomaniacal and bad business.
Pays his employees absolutely nothing.
As a socialist, right? Does that carry over to your Twitch?
To
your
who?
podcast?
To who? To what?
To editors? To moderators?
Yes.
So you're paying moderators or a head of moderation?
No, not editors and not moderators. I don't want moderators.
Wait. So editors and moderators? Yes. No, not moderators or editors. So anything in between the Cupid doll and the no. Anything in between the race car and the pencil sharp. No. Basically, anything in between. Yeah. No.
To who? To what?
Yeah.
To editors, to moderators.
Yes.
So you're paying moderators or head of moderation?
No, not editors and not moderators. I don't want moderators to come on board exclusively because they want to, you know, use this as a job opportunity.
That's subjectively hypocritical, and let's face it, it's just funny to watch Hassan act like he's a blue-collar worker on stream, acting like he's shocked when he hears how expensive people's homes are.
Glass doors, which is absolutely horrible for audio quality.
Dude, this is like unimaginable wealth, dude. How the f do people make this much money? $2.9 million near Las Vegas? Dude, oh my fucking Lord, dude.
By the way, if you spend $2.9 million somewhere near Las Vegas, that place is huge and ballin'. Because, like, Las Vegas homes are not expensive compared to the, like, Los Angeles homes. And you get a lot out there because there's nothing. And your air conditioning is badass, always. That's because if you don't have it, you die. Anyway.
Castle in Las Vegas.
Bro, he bought a $3 million house for himself the next month. What is he talking about? Not a Hassan fan.
The shirt he's wearing is a $100 shirt, by the way.
The dude is literally the most consistent political streamer in existence. At least if you're going to lie on someone, make it believable.
It's time to stop.
How do you convince someone of something when they're so stuck in their worldview, they ignore all your receipts? It's impossible.
Huh. It's impossible. Yes. You can try, but they're not going to hear you. They don't want to hear you. They don't need to hear you. The cognitive dissonance, that shit that they've been shitting into their own hands, has been shoved right into their ears, compressed as hard as they can. Gosh, that stuff really gets a little sweat on you. So good. I love the spicy. Spicy. Speaking of spicy, leader. Sorry.
The old adage must be true. You can't argue with stupid.
People need to be told to shut the fuck up. People need to be told that they are wrong all the time.
Okay, hold on a second. Shut the fuck. Wait, hold on. No, not you, Mac. Not with you, Willie. Not you. Hold on a second. Oh, the cut went too fast.
Existence. At least if you're going to lie on someone, make it believable.
It's time to stop.
How do you convince someone of something when they're so stuck in their worldview, they ignore all your receipts? It's impossible. The old adage must be true. You can't argue with stupid.
People need to be told to shut the fuck up. People need to be told that they are wrong.
Shut the fuck up. Sir, you're wrong about, like, almost everything all the time. It's astonishing. Much less the combo of the porn stash and the, you know, early 80s sideburn. I don't know what's going on there. Please. Please. And every day they hustling. And today I heard the state senators say that the U.S. deficit has increased since 2019. And these scammy fools, yes, 100%. Not only contributing, but not contributing really, because as a nation, we don't have really a combining interest in taking care of one another. 55%? What's that? Oh, as always, it's been fun for Mentor working on central nervous system. Oh, hey, enjoy that. I hope you enjoy that. Have a good time. Sorry.
All the time.
Hassan hates any and all journalism that goes against his worldview. 3 years ago, a video went viral of a man holding a BLM sign in what was apparently the most racist town in America. The video is 2 minutes long and features people threatening to kill him, calling him the N-word, and Hassan loves it.
This is braver than the troops, okay? I'll just say this right now. What he's doing is, sometimes we use that as a joke. They say like, oh, this man's braver than the troops. But like what he's doing is literally just straight up putting his life on the line without any sort of protection or Kevlar or anything. How many of these people are off-duty cops?
Hyperbole. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I need some of that. How many of these? Oh, wow. Anyways, point being is, you've got somebody in a position speaking to tens of thousands of people on a daily basis, and these people tune in regularly. This can be problematic when they start believing everything that's said. The stream was 2 minutes behind. Oh, was it? It's all the jerky I've been eating. It just puts it all behind. Anyway. So this is another character. And this is somebody who's much larger than, say, Destiny. I mean, if anything, Destiny's tiny compared to him. We're not even looking at XQC, because XQC is really all Twitch. The same, Hassan is Twitch, too. By the way, I proudly got booted from Hassan's channel by asking questions about apparently something that one of the mods didn't like. I don't remember what it was, but I got booted. I still can chat in Destiny's chat, although I think I'm muted there. So, I think it's hilarious. What's so challenging? What's so dangerous? Oh, thought outside of the circle. Thought outside of the acceptable norm. Don't challenge. Because these people, despite all of the quote-unquote cred and all of the, belief that they have followers, all of the assumed power, and the money they actually do have, doesn't stop someone from being a coward when it comes to philosophy. Or the ability to have discourse with somebody without having to attack, but rather to just understand them. And that's an interesting thing. Because really, truly, a coward attacks first without finding out what you have in common or what you don't. A coward will show up on somebody else's panel wanting to talk about something ill-prepared and incapable of making their point by using a dissuader or a proof of their point of view to start with, because that's what it takes. And somewhere along the line, all this chicanery, all this bullshit, all these people playing roles they don't actually have and having the authority that they don't have, pretending to be those things that they aren't, and the Twitch poll universe of screaming at each other has turned the logic of conversation or sensibility on its head to the point where people think that it's guilty until proven innocent. The absence of evidence is evidence. That a negative can be disproved. And that you can use a negative as an example. Food shops did it last night. Well, you can't tell who's thinking what. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about bad actors, not who's thinking badly. Don't try to confuse the two. That's an easy red herring you're using. A deflection from the true point. It's unfair to the conversation. It's unfair to the people having it, frankly. And it suggests that you don't really understand what's being said. Cognizance, comprehension level, or cynicism. It's an interesting thing. Because you notice, I don't get called very often. And you know, I've only turned down a very few people on my panel. Who did I turn down? Oh, Prickadicka Satan. You know, Satan's bitch daughter. Who else did I turn down? Oh, Benny Sleaze. Apparently now he's okay with I saw him in the I was just like, oh, what's going on there? What the fuck? Hey, I love you. Forgiving one's enemies, that's one thing. Utilizing them as a tool, that's just as evil as forgiving them because you want to align with them. It's the lowest form of capitulation. It's not because somebody's changed their ways, but rather because you now both stand on the same side inadvertently. That's a fucking really low space. I don't care how many people you have watching you. The adjective of bullshit character can be applied to those whose morality and ethics are swayed to the point of mirroring the people that they would dislike. Now, once again, I bring it back to How far does one take it in the extreme? What is bad in the extreme? Oh, well, when you start mirroring the person that you, or people that you rail against, doing the same things they do, low key, whether you admit it or not, or at least behaving as bad, whether or not you do the actions they do, the behaviors themselves, you know. It's pretty telling. It's telling of character. It's telling of what people are willing to do. There's a difference between accepting people because they change or keep their behavior positive in a place where they know where the rules apply. But when you throw the rules out in general for kindness, throw the rules out for social well-being, and you just start coalescing for power's sake, well, now you're an enemy of kindness. Now you're an enemy of intellect. Now you're an enemy of those who just live individually, of those who live as their own, those who don't want to be part of the group. Maybe they just want to watch a show. Maybe they want to enjoy a little drama and then move on. Maybe they want to chat with their friends and not be bothered by what's going on in the overreaching, cult-like aspect of a lot of these groups. Hunter Avalon, religious-based zealotry with left-leaning, which is fine. Vosh, spicy chat, and all of the really clearly bigoted fucking limited incel map motherfuckers hiding amongst a group pointing at everybody else when it's them doing it. How do I know that? Because I've tracked a bunch of those bitches. And it always goes back to the same couple of fools. All hiding in plain sight in groups that tout themselves as being more intellectual, more important, but really, it's bigotry, hatred towards others, xenophobia. So we need to recognize them for what they are. The outcasts to start with. The folks that don't fit in real life, and instead of fitting in real life, they fit in together in a group amalgamated of concentrated dislike of the world, of what they don't receive, of what they don't understand. Isn't Vosh the dude that ends up doing freaky stuff with her? No. Not as far as I know. That'd be a new one. No. Vosh is, I was considered, somebody called him a stochastic terrorist. I think that's extreme. But another one of these people, it's just politics world. Chudface. A lot of these folks who would demand that their reasoning is more logic than it is hyperbole and ad hominem. These folks who base their logic in chest pounding and everybody agreeing with them because they all hate the same person. These are people who are fat, lazy, live in their mom's house, have low creativity skills, low vibe, probably low sex drive, low fucking experience, low access to the world, and yet they're the ones who tout themselves as something greater than enough to be involved in Kiwi and be massively involved in that shit. And like K-hole bitch, that little dude who's the fucking lol for them, he doesn't even realize he's a lol, and they would dare fuck with people just because they think that they're weaker than or whatever. These are fat retards, basically. These are really low-life scum people. These people cover up their actions by saying, anonymous. They're not actually anonymous. They keep getting tracked, and they're being watched actively, which is fucking nuts. Can you imagine proudly being a part of that? Telling everybody you're a part? That's how stupid some of these folks actually are. You're on an active watch list, but you're going to tell everybody how proud you are of being a part of it. Don't do that. That's fucking just moronic. But funny for those of us who know. Mr. Medicare, yeah, absolutely. So that's moved out. There's a bunch of different other things. And I know all of the like iterations all the way back to the mid-90s. Which I think is funny that most of these kids don't even know how far back it goes or to whom or why. How these keys get handed down and what the LARP actually is. They don't know what the dog wag is. They're all feeding into some fucking thing they have no clue about, but they are sure they're in control of. All right. I love when people tell me they don't know shit while they're telling me they know everything. It's one of my favorite pastimes as being an adult. Somebody who spent their life actually experiencing and accomplishing shit on like a multitude of levels in a multitude of ways in all different directions. I can share and make an example of all of them. Most of it's chronicled, and if it isn't, it's because it's none of your fucking business and never will be. That's another point of it. When someone like myself comes on the scene, I tend to be pretty threatening to these folks. Or they want to downplay me to the point where it's like, it's silly because it's like, yo, you're a fat ass who sat in a chair playing video games talking about how important your pud-knocking belief system is because you've used jargon enough to point out that your political idea may be a little more informed than a junior high schooler. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, you have, Lita. You have 2 kids. You've experienced giving life, for God's sakes. Oh, are you... Wait, hold on a second. Are you reading the book? That was good. That was pretty good. You almost got me there. Let's go. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. I'm a loser, baby. So what are you gonna? Yeah. That's really what it is. Like, and even funnier is, from my point of view, somebody who's been really privileged on a lot of levels that most people never get to fucking ever experience. And not only am I proud of it, but it's like, yo, I'm not gonna not be me just because you feel insecure about the fact that, you know, whatever the fuck has happened to you or hasn't happened to you or what you did or did not experience. Not you, Lita. I'm talking about all of these groups of folks that are essentially one form or another of incel. Let me put it right. Computer hack, fucking geek ass, self-victim, blaming of others, hermit, incapable of actually having a social life. That's what a lot of it is. I feel bad. I used to feel bad. Now I don't. Why? Not because I don't have empathy, but because these people literally are just rolling around in their own muck, throwing their shit at other people. Now, they can do that, but they don't like it thrown back, and they definitely don't like it when it's not shit, but actual, like, gold standard example of why you don't fuck with people. They really don't like it when they have to eat out of a bigger bowl than they served from because they're not expecting it. And when they don't know where it comes from, that's even funnier because they think that they should know. Like there's rules to these things because they set up some rules for themselves in their own mind in a delusional state. Now, I know a lot of these folks are sycophantically followed because they say some quips or they say things that, a 14-year-old would resoundly agree with, but I don't give a fuck. How many world leaders you sat around with? What's your actual accomplishment? Can you prove it? That's my question to them. Oh, so you have a streaming show and there's a lot of viewers. Yeah. There's a lot of people that do that. There's a dude who actually is a white nationalist and his wife is missing. He's got a lot of viewers too. There's that Hassan dude. He gets pretty much everything wrong. He got 20,000. XQC is even speaking English. He's playing video games and just sitting there watching people's videos. He's got 48,000. What does it mean if you have that many subscribers? Nothing. It means nothing. It's a TV show. And it only means something it only means something when the call to action is made. And then those true believers. Yeah, there's a pretty big difference between an angry hermit and an enlightened one. True. A huge, massive difference between the two of them. Ain't that a fact? Yeah. The angry hermit. That's the one that'll lash out at you. The enlightened one, bake you a cake. It'll be really tasty, but you'll never know who baked it. It's true. Anyhow, moving on.
None of you motherfuckers on Twitter were going to give me the ability to
They're
sue.
not gonna do
My
it.
government wasn't going to do it. So this man, out of the kindness of his heart, maybe it's for different reasons. I don't actually care. I just want to see with my eyes again.
What I'm saying,
I want my kids to have clean drinking water because nobody else seems to give them. Like, I think people forget that aspect of it and they just want to talk about optics, optics, optics. Optics is for people who are privileged.
I love that. Yesterday, Neve got on Fatty's panel, and Fatty, that's amazing, tried to get Tom. You talking about tomfoolery? And he was like, nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. Yeah. True, the angry hermit wants company. The enlightened one, not so much. True. A lot of these numbers aren't even organic. Has anyone ever considered that being a professional internet celebrity might actually be a Faustian bargain? Yes. I'm so glad that you pointed this out. That the false sense of celebrity caused by what could be inflation of numbers by computer algorithm. It happens. So yeah, tomfoolery leader says he watched Fatty's live and was like, nah, I'm good. Logged off. Speaking of which, what's Tom doing right now? Hold on a second. What is Tom talking about? Something probably. Oh, hold on a second. What happened there? What is Tom talking? Is Tom talking? Let's see. Pearl caught exploiting underage girls. What is is nobody live right now? Am I the only live? What's going on? Is it that late? No. Good nature. Brittany Venti is live. Oh, damn. What's going on, Brittany? Pearl gets the makeover that she desperately needs. Yeah, I'm going to avoid that one. I don't really think I'm going to go for that one. Let's see. Who else is here? Yeah, not that one. Food shops. She's covering something. Yeah, no Tom tonight. Oh, but there is iTomfoolery. There's always iTomfoolery. I love iTomfoolery, by the way.
Story time with tomfoolery.
Oh yeah, you didn't know this existed, did you?
Cheers goes everywhere.
It sure does, because
Written
you know what
by-
time it is. Yeah.
Ooh, well damn, baby. Did one of y'all just turn the heat up? Or did it just get real sexy in here?
Oh, it got sexy.
Back again, baby.
Mm-hmm.
With Aaron After Dark.
True, cup the labia, hashtag.
Viewer discretion is definitely advised. Jizz goes everywhere. On Clara's shirt. And in her hair.
That's
on
terrible. How
Ben's
is she-
couch. To his despair. On the picnic blanket. When Larissa wants a
True,
sandwich.
where is Gashan?
In Ciara's eye.
Oh, that must have, jizz gets everywhere in Sierra's eye, causing it to twitch. Oh.
Causing it to twitch. On Johnny's beard. Just as he'd feared. On Monica's new dress. When Bill is too focused on trying to impress. On the lifeguard's shorts. as he looks out on the beach. And a blonde is starting to screech on an antique dresser when Jessica brings lunch to her college professor.
As is tradition. As is tradition.
On the kitchen table when Brandon's squirting becomes unstable.
True.
On a
Very true.
sailor's shoes after a late night cruise. All over the inside of the homeless couple's tent after months of failing to pay their rent.
That's
On the
fucked up.
upholstery of Tommy's car as he and Sheila look up at the stars.
Anyhow, you get the idea. You get the idea that oh wait, hold on. We also have this one. It's a classic. This is a classic. I hope you enjoy. Another tomfoolery, by the way. Not tomfoolery, tomfoolery. Still,
Storytime
that's how I
with
found it.
Tomfoolery presents Chewy's Big Balls. Written by Guy Miron.
Okay.
Chewy is a small dog with big balls.
Look at them. They're huge. Got one in his
He
mouth.
likes to play and lick his balls all the time.
Clearly, you can see him licking the ball.
Chewy tried to fit both of his big balls in his mouth.
Wow, talent.
But they are too big.
You know how it goes.
He likes to strut around the neighborhood with his big ball sack.
He does.
Showing off
Oh,
his
isn't he alive?
big balls. One day, he meets
What's she
Lucky. She asks Chewy, "Can we play with your big balls?" Chewy replies, "Yes, you can, but be gentle. They are fragile."
His big balls, very fragile.
Lucky invited her friend Muffin to come and play with Chewy's
It's a party
big
now.
balls. Lucky and Muffin were having so much fun playing with Chewy's big balls. They were
As they
bouncing
should.
them and licking them. They
Wow.
tried to fit both balls into their mouths.
Wow, the audacity.
They were so big, they started choking on them.
They were choking on his
Chewy
big balls.
was getting
My
all
God.
excited. Watching them lick and play with his big balls. He decides to join in the fun. They were having so much fun playing with his big balls. Chewy was rubbing his big balls.
Okay, so
all
I think
over
we get the
them.
idea. Anyway, we know what the story's about.
Didn't
It's
take
about
long
his big
for
balls.
his big balls to be
The
full
bouncy
of
balls.
slobbers,
He's a tennis ball-
gooey,
tennis.
and
Playing tennis.
sticky. They played with his big balls until it was bedtime.
It wasn't
The
really.
Chewy end.
All right. Well,
Chewy's Big Balls, written by Guy Miron, narrated by Tomfoolery. A very special thank
Is
you
it? That doesn't
to
sound like a
Guy
Tom.
Miron for sending us this cheeky Chewy tale about Chewy and his big balls. Don't you just hate it when dogs slobber all over your balls? Yes.
yes, yes. The story about big balls is making you feel uncomfortable.
I made a point of calling out her behavior as of other. So we're both mods, right? And Angela only has like 3.
Look at who's over here.
So there's not really like enough.
Oh,
people
is
to
this
really address
is
it, so
Neve
I
reviewing
addressed
this
it. I
from
was
another
also on the
time?
panel at the time, so it wasn't the greatest thing on my part. But Moxie didn't
Team
take it
Fatty when
well.
is this the with the
person
panel
she
you were
was
talking
fighting
about,
with
Lita?
Was also pretty antagonistic as well. But Moxie wouldn't back down from the situation.
Hi, Neve.
She let it kind of like get a little worse. So after this happened,
Hey
we go
guys,
back to
This
the
is last
Discord,
night?
and this
Let's
is where
look
the conversation
How you feeling?
was
Good, how are you?
recorded.
We're just watching something.
So
Oh, is it
So-
an app, movie, or show?
Neither.
A video game?
No, just a stream from yesterday. Are you able to see it from your Xbox?
No, I'm on Xbox.
Okay.
That was a funny. Are you able to see that from the expert? No, I'm on that.
No, you're fine.
The topic is brought up about the show, and like you'll see in the video, Angela literally says this, verbatim, quote for quote, like, "We all know who the problem is," and then, honestly, like I know Grey Pill doesn't even give a fuck right now. So literally the quote is, Angela says, "We all know who the problem is." Grey Pill laughs and says Moxie, and I say, to be fair.
Oh yeah, he just chose not to.
To be fair, Moxie,
Angela laughed.
What?
Angela laughed.
We all laughed. We all laughed. Moxie, we all laughed. We all laughed. You're funny.
Yeah, Moxie.
I don't deal with you guys.
You're funny.
You guys are like
You're little. Okay. I'm not done
you
yet.
guys aren't straight shooters, man.
Okay, I'm not done yet.
You guys are Angela's minions.
Let her finish. She's fine.
Relevant.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Wait, is Moxie Portuguese as well?
That clip.
Yeah, Moxie was
and
here.
it gets recorded. Okay.
Moxie was here for a while.
The rest of the discussion, Moxie comes into the chat, and for whatever reason, she starts to, like her and I have a back and forth. We are moved to another chat to try and sort it out. We can't. So we both.
By that, I haven't watched that video, but it did not get good reviews from anybody. Like nobody's like, yeah, it's a good video.
Okay, so
Nobody.
you have a VC,
I feel bad.
and also
I've had those. I've had those.
Yes.
Okay.
When
so
everybody
in that
when everybody
status
says nothing.
was live. And in the @everyone earlier that day, there was a @everyone discussing that channel would be used to like basically for content creators just to kind of come in, stream, have conversations on stream with other content creators, like informally. So this was something that was known. And unfortunately for Moxie, she doesn't grace us in her presence for, she comes around every once a month, 2 months. And I think it's probably because she's super hungover. She literally comes into the super shit-faced and starts trying to like fight everyone.
By the way, what is going on with Fatty down in the corner? Is he like ill or something? Lita, do you know what's going on with him? And I still don't understand how E Black comes into it, other than it seems like, is he just interjecting? Neve is great. That's what's going on.
So I think following that, she comes into the Discord. It's literally obvious. You know what? The reason you probably didn't know is because like you're 45, right? Like.
Ruthless. Sorry.
Hey, hold on a second, Neve. Okay.
This joke though, like the chat hated me for this one. Like they thought it was fucked up.
Whatever. I'm fucking.
They
literally
just said
E-Black
came off a slave ship.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I understand.
I promise you.
I'm not gonna.
There's a status that says
That makes
there was
sense.
live.
That makes sense.
Oh, I know. The truth is hard. The truth is hard.
understand.
But the truth will set
It's
you
not
free.
that it's fucking hard.
The truth will set you
It's
free.
that I'm exhausted, yo.
Take a big
Like,
breath.
It's not about breathing.
Take a big breath.
You have to understand me.
No, I don't.
Give a fuck.
Anytime anybody says that, I always say, no, I don't. I don't have to understand.
Because you're here.
No, I literally don't.
When you are recalling the event and you. Dude, everybody that deals with Moxie makes the same face. You can ask me to stop. They all like grab their fucking forehead. They're just like, oh my god, Jesus Christ. So my question.
Yeah,
is,
by the way, can you imagine dealing on a day-to-day basis with some of these folks and the logic that they use? Is that what they use in real normal life? That gaslighting fucking flip-floppy, just like fabricate whatever to make you feel like you don't know what's going on kind of scenario where I've dealt with people like that before, but I mean, normally I get away from them as fast as possible. But can you imagine getting stuck where you have to live or deal with somebody like Fatty's your downstairs roommate or some shit like that? Can you imagine? Good God. What if he pays his bills? I don't know. I have no clue. Fatty is, after Mike kicked Moxie, she joined E Black. I didn't know that. Fatty did this live stream to smear Angela because she hurt all of their feelings. True, Lita. True, but that's not hard to do. You know, little kids, their emotions easily touched.
Don't doubt that Moxie and Paddy. Let's.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're adults.
That's fine. That's fine.
I need to. No, I need to finish
Still
the story.
plus.
Like it's
go
in their
ahead.
case.
Okay, so so Moxie obviously gets upset about allegedly being recorded live. the person who is streaming is one person, Kankle, and that's where the
Fine, I don't
clip
think
of
they
the
care that
conversation
much.
comes from.
It was like
Okay?
2 or 3 women.
So
He's on the
Kankle,
chat, I think. Hi, Lizard Tree. How are you?
So
Hey!
Kankle's streaming the conversation. That's where Moxie takes it.
I'm
And she gives
sniping
it to
you,
LT,
Neve, because
okay?
it's awesome content.
I don't know what the conversation they had, but the following week, at the end of one of LT's episodes, they aired that chunk of the conversation that I was talking about originally. So we're talking about
Really,
Angela
Lizard Tree?
saying, we all knew who the problem was. Grey Pale saying Moxie, and me explaining.
It was. I understood
like,
what you said. I
actually
understood what you meant, though.
What happened?
I
And it
felt- I
wasn't
felt
even
it.
like.
I felt-
To be fair, Moxie, I wasn't even shitting on you. I was explaining the situation objectively, but you took it super personally. Anyways, continuing that, we were kind of like, what the fuck? Like, you know, we, as far as I was concerned, we had a back and forth, and I was going to see you in the Discord next week, and we would have talked it up.
So one of the interesting things about the dynamic going on here, and I think Neve is describing it well as the energy, giving it the energy it deserves, which is the sense that, well, she's tired of it. She's over it. It's like absurdist. Having to explain it out is absurd. It's cynical to all these people. They were there. They know what happened. But the truth is they don't want to admit their parts or their roles. These are fucking adults. These are the same kind of behaviors you find from teenagers when they knock the lamp over and they don't want to admit it. Whose fault was it? I don't know how that happened. And it's drama farming, as if that's the only thing they can do. That's an uncreative gesture, by the way. It's funny. Not talking about Neve. It's Neve's handling her shit.
Over. But for whatever reason, we get a clip sent to us of our Discord conversation, the Discord that you've been part of for the last like 6 days, like since I've known you, the last like 4 to 5 months, literally brown nosing the shit out of Angela, Bella.
Good.
No one can ever hear you stop
I
saying
call
Bella.
people Bella.
And
You
so-
understand, right?
Okay, yeah,
I never
So-
brown nosed her.
Okay, so
Stop the cap.
so you
Hello, I'm Aaron, and I'm doing a absolutely no context stream with no knowledge or any background information. Here, let's go. Yeah, no, that's like, I wanted to be able to do. I wish I could do that. I fret over that. I overcompensate by thinking about too many complex issues. I wish I could just roll in and be like, what's happening, guys? Oh, I don't know anything. I'm going to interject because I don't know anything. Whatever I was doing, whatever accent I was doing, it was terrible. It was terrible.
the conversations that were had that were shitty were me, but you can't make a hit piece on me because it wouldn't be worth the time, right? To be fair, even though I have more followers than you, to be fair.
Oh, Chad,
So what
no,
did you do?
absolutely. Chad can and may do that, actually. I've got some plans. Yeah, I've been scoping some things for a while now, but I'm waiting until they soften up so Chad can get in there. But yeah, no, Chad is definitely. And by the way, keep an eye out tomorrow night. Chad, all night. Yeah, the day before, and LMAO, true. Instead of like streaming his own drama, he did this. Oh, anyhow, yes.
You decided to use the opportunity to make a hit.
Yeah, and
piece
she
on Angela
accused you of
'cause you
clout
petty as
chasing
fuck.
off of her.
That's exactly
What
it
clout?
was.
Fucking
You were being fair.
hilarious.
No, you know what? If you were being fair, if you were being fair, Moxie, shut up. Moxie, if you were being fair, you would have made the hit piece on me and you would have let
Why
Angela
would
out of
I?
it, but you didn't.
I got you.
But you
I got
did because you're petty,
No.
because you're a clout chaser, and you, how dare you
You're
tell
not-
someone?
You're here
Hey,
right now.
how dare you tell Angela that she should fight her own battles when your petty ass immediately went to LT with a clip of our conversation because you couldn't fight your own.
Bam! Boom! Wow! I'm uncomfortable for her. No, I'm just kidding. Nice slam, Neve. Nice slam. Anyhow.
Did it.
That's it. That's all I gotta say.
LT
That's all I gotta say.
One second.
LT sent
No,
me that screen.
I've literally said everything I need to say.
1 second, friends. 1 second. Moxie, I'll give you the chance to reply. I just have 2 probing questions to Neve. So Moxie, you said that she comes in and out every month, right? She's not close to you guys, right?
Like.
By the way, what is this about?
Yes, but
Yes,
like
'cause you
on
said,
the
"Oh, she comes
infrequently.
around."
I gotta be frank. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about in the extremist interpersonal section, where all of the interest in this is taken to a point of it's too far. Why? Because people are challenging each other just to make a kerfluffle. And yeah, this has nothing to do with creativity. This has to do with stuff that goes on in VCs and between people. As soon as you make that interest, you're no longer doing a show. Now you're putting yourself on display like a circus animal. You're dancing around. Nothing against Neve. She's actually trying to handle something, but I just don't think that these kind of bits of discourse are debates. They're not. They're conversations that should be had privately. They're soap opera. And when it's being done purposefully in the public, there's an intention and an agenda. Now, if it were LARP, that'd be one thing, but it's not. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it tonight. This is a great place to just like sum it up. Because you know that Neve is well-intentioned, but she's caught in a moment where she has to defend and address things, and she's probably the only person that I'm hearing so far, because I'm not listening very far into it. And to be frank, I don't really care to, don't really need to. I can only say that the environment we're in right now. Fatty had the nerve to have an opinion about the Thorpes? Oh, I would love to see Ben have a conversation with Fatty. Oh my God. That would be something gnarly. Ben, you watching? No, it's too late. It's probably gone. Yeah, you heard me. Anyway. In the vast ocean that is 50 million hours per week of content creation, videos, show. These videos are but a drop, not even a pin top. These groups, they represent tiny percentages of disenfranchised and very tiny subcultures. They are not the majority. They don't represent the whole. They speak for themselves and not the whole at all. So I would lay caution to following too deeply into one group or another as if that is the end-all be-all of logic. That is the end-all be-all of association. You see, tribal needs, they're important. Social needs, they're important. Healthy needs are more important. If you don't have a life outside of the videos and the chatting and the VCs, that's an actual problem, and that's extreme. And that's bad. Now, on the other level, if you take the opposite route, there's almost no end to the good that comes from the extreme of living out your life. Cult of tube communities, true. And living outside of this creator culture that isn't creative at all in a lot of cases, or at least in the cases of what we're looking at specifically with these kind of panels, these kind of creators. Not saying Neve, because I think Neve is actually a very creative mind. I'm talking about the argument that they're having. I'm talking about the public display of this argument as show. Because it's not show. That's just an argument that should be had in private. has no place in public, and all this sharing of private information, all this stuff is a mixture that can only end up explosively for anyone involved. That said, if you're rolling around looking for trouble, you poke the bear long enough, you're gonna get a swat, a swipe, a bunch of claws. That's what happens. So the warning is don't poke the bear. Carry honey. It makes more friends. And that's what really collaboration is about. It's not about creating an enemy of the community. It's not about creating a community that creates enemies. Rather, community is something that happens in real life. Gathering of minds. People that can see each other, deal with each other, and like each other. Create better bonds. Bonds don't really get created here because it's parasocial, meaning you don't actually know the people. That's like saying that the person in the front row at the concert knows the artist they're going to see because they've seen the band 20 times. It's just not true. It's a false belief. Life isn't a series of W's and L's. It's not a debate to be won. It is life. Getting along. Learning how to work with others to better the world for everybody, really. Because there's too many of us to not work with each other. To not spread kindness. And I know it doesn't sell as well. I know it doesn't excite you, the audience, because it's not something that is easily inflaming the senses. It's not something that you can capture onto and be like, oh, that's the enemy, that's a, it's polarization is much easier to sell. True. Than kindness. But I don't care. And I hope you don't either. Because at the end of the day, I'm here reaching my hand out. Just like I know you are. There's lots of us. Putting our hand out for those that fall down into the well, known as the obelisk. That structure funnel that carries all that negative energy, all the pain point sales messages with no solution, all of the druthers and whataboutisms and all of the ideas that would sell you down a river because you believe you need to be more or something else other than you. The question is whether or not enough people will take the hand of those who reach out to them to pull them from the mental prison that they create for themselves. That funnel that feeds the energy up to a ben-ben that is disconnected from the rest of the obelisk. The ben-ben, that power structure at the top that holds the obelisk in place. Crushing the funnel with its weight. We can only avoid that mental prison by stepping outside of it, not being part of it, rejecting it, saying, fuck you, I'm not interested. I like happiness. I like love. And no matter what anybody says, I'm not going to get dragged down. I'm just going to cut you and walk away. I'm not going to spend much time stabbing. Sorry. I'm just going to make a point, say what I have to say, and walk the fuck away. You need more proof? That means you doubt yourself. Not you doubt the other. So prove to me, prove to me, prove to me. No. People that follow around trying to require proof, they're the ones who are scared that what was said was true. And that's how the world really works. So from me to you, I urge and hope for the best for all of you, to avoid all the pitiful pratfalls of bullshittery that come with a lot of these folks playing games, pretending to be authority that they are not. And by the way, I'm always happy to go toe-to-toe on that one. Why? Because it's not hard for me. I'll immediately capitulate to somebody who actually is authority over me because I want to learn from them. I seek mentors, as I urge others to. Seek more learning. Seek more love. Seek more light. I may talk harshly. I may speak in tones that sound like I'm chiding. I am. Shame is powerful. Especially when it comes from somebody like me, frankly. Now, I'm not all powerful. I'm not some amazing magician. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, look, I'm just someone who's been lucky enough to get a bunch of shit done. And to be earnest enough to say I've failed and won both. Enough times to know the difference between the two. And to know that any one of you, just like me, can do amazing things if you set your mind to it. I'm aronmsound. And the most important thing any of us can do, I believe, is look up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lizard Tree. Thank you for the supporters. Somebody actually sent $10 tonight. Somebody said, "Oh, I've been chewing on the jerky that somebody sent me all night long. I've been drinking the coffee." Thank you. Your support for the show means more than you could possibly imagine. It keeps me going, keeps me showing back up, and you know, like I said, I'm going to be building out on it. More tomorrow night, obviously, Thursday and Friday, coming back on, and tomorrow night. I believe it's Chad Chatterton, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to be giving away to Chad, doing a similar kind of a round. He's taking my approach, but, you know, red-pilled, Chad style. So show on up. Sometime about 5, if all goes well. Depends on how my day rolls tomorrow. But should be about 5. And, yeah. Hopefully you'll be looking forward to that. And hopefully there'll be some Pearl material that Chad can look at. He'll find something. I'm sure he'll find something. Anyways. From the deepest portion of my being to you. May the world treat you well. May peace be on your mind. May love be in your life. And may you be allowed stare up at the stars and wonder, how long will it take us all to look up? Le click.